stream to YouTube.
Talk about that later.
Yeah, copy that.
Not a terrible idea.
Recording. We'll let Alan tell us when the second clock. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting being held on Tuesday, the 20th of October. I'd like to begin with the Kaurna acknowledgement. The City of Prospect acknowledges that we are on the traditional country of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains region, and we respect elders past and present. We recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationships with the land, and we acknowledge that they are of continuing importance to the Kaurna people living today. And now the Council pledge. We seek wisdom and understanding as we face the duties of our united task, praying for the peace and prosperity of our city. Before we begin the agenda, this landed in my spot and I thought, what have I won? And I can't recall winning anything, but then I read a bit further and I'd like to recognise Councillor Christina Barnett, who received the Susan Grace Benny Award and Lifetime Membership for Outstanding Leadership. It's a fantastic recognition of Councillor Barnett's contribution not only to the City of Prospect but also to the ALGWA as a foundation member and inaugural president, and 38 years of service to the community. And I'm sure it was a thrill to receive that, not only in the presence of your peers, but also to be presented by the Honourable Francis Adamson, the Governor of South Australia, but surprise guest, the Governor-General of Australia. So I'm sure that must have been a thrill. So please join me in congratulating this recognition, and we look forward to another 38 years worth of service.
Well, my birthday's coming up.
On leave there and nil. Apologies, we've received a late apology from Councillor Tweedawit. Item 4 on the agenda, indication of intention to declare a conflict of interest. I believe there are a couple of people, so I'll go from my left, Councillor Backer.
Yeah, just item 12.2.3 regarding street trees. I'm going to stay in the room, but I won't vote just because of people impacted in my street.
Yeah. Councillor Groot.
Did you say De Groot?
I said Councillor Groot.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said Councillor De Groot.
I said I am Groot.
I am, yes, correct. Hey, that's a good slogan for that, actually.
10.5
annual community grants. I'm declaring a general conflict of interest. I'll stay in the room and I'll continue to vote, but I have close connections either through my children or my work or my immediate previous work with a number of the organisations who are recommended to receive a grant tonight.
Thank you. Item 5, confirmation of minutes. Do I have a mover? Councillor Barnett, would you like to speak to the motion?
No.
I saw Deputy Mayor Trindawin seconding. Is there any discussion? If not, and we don't see the need to sum up, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried unanimously. Item 6 on the agenda, public question time. So we invite members of the general public to come up and ask us questions. We're taking 5 questions, maximum of 3 minutes per person. If we can answer the question, we will. If we can't answer the question, we'll take it on notice. So are there any questions from members of the public? If not, we'll move on to item 7. petitions there and
That was a tad quick. I have a question,
uh,
if that's
if you-
okay.
yeah, come up to the,
Do I approach the chair?
yeah, and we'll just need your name and your suburb for the purposes of minutes.
My name is Paul Seacombe. I'm a resident of Wilcox Avenue, Prospect. And my question for council is around the parking arrangements in Wilcox Avenue. I'd be curious to know, given the unenforceable nature of the parking opposite another car, how many infringement notices have been issued in Wilcox Avenue in the last 12 months?
Thanks for the question. I'll hand that to the CEO.
Perhaps not surprisingly, Mr. Mayor, I don't have that information off the top of my head. How many infringements in the last 12 months?
12 months. Pick a time period, particularly for parking opposite another vehicle, given I believe it's a completely unenforceable bylaw and therefore useless.
I can't speak to the truth of what you just said, but I will look up the infringement
So the
data.
infringement notices will give us an indication, I believe, of the utility of that arrangement. Look forward to a response.
We may need more details, sir, just so that I can provide that answer to you. So potentially if you could maybe talk with Ms. Taylor here, and she can take your information and we'll do our best to respond. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Are there any other questions from members of the public? If not, I'll move on to item 7, petitions there and nil. Item 8, deputations. We have one. I'd like to invite Jeffrey Hook, who would like to talk about road safety and the men's shed. Jeffrey, would you like to approach the table and just your suburb for the purposes of the minutes?
It's Jeffrey Pook of 14 Harrington Street, Prospect, South Australia.
Thank you. You have up to 5 minutes if you need them. When you get to 4 minutes, I'll give you a 1-minute warning, and you may be asked questions from the elected members.
That's fine.
So, what's going?
Subject is safety in Prospect. 2 items covering road safety and a main shed. Can I begin?
You have.
Road safety affects all of those that drive a vehicle, and some of the council ideas on safe travelling in Prospect are guided either by a minority of complainers or by an inability to see what I consider to be common sense. The first item that I will mention, in no particular priority, are the chicanes, which the council use for traffic control. I'm not arguing against them, but why in the world would you then go and plant shrubs so that those driving not a high SUV cannot see what vehicles are coming in the opposite direction? It is better at night when the headlights are on and you can detect a vehicle coming in the opposite direction. The second idea, which has been in the past proved less than a safe, is staggered parking as against parking on one side of the street. The staggered parking leaves the decision up to the vehicle user, some of whose decisions have been less than sensible, with vehicles virtually tail to tail on opposite sides of the road. This in most situations makes it very difficult to drive down the street, and for delivery vans virtually impossible. Now we come to the boy racers, who accept the challenge of going down the street as fast as possible, and this parking chicane is a bonus challenge. You definitely cannot say that won't happen, because it already has. In Harrington Street, before we had parking on one side of the street, a boy racer managed not only to roll his car, but had enough momentum to demolish a stone pole and the wiring attached, thus cutting the power to the area. It seems that Prospect Council has not heard of democracy. In Harrington Street, there was an inquiry towards making the street one way. Apparently this was signed and tried whilst I was in Singapore for a fortnight. When I came back, still no one-way sign. I inquired of the neighbours what had happened, and it seems that the signage for one direction in the street was put up there and soon removed. A person or persons complained that cars were doing 3-point turns in the street. Well, I can tell you now that having lived there for 38 years, the council can be satisfied that 3-point turns have been happening since then and right up to today. Enough of crazy traffic rules, let's get to the men's shed. The new shed for which money was donated has been taken over by council for general community use. The idea of this new shed was to acquire a much more manageable space for the men and machines to improve safety in this workspace. For some unknown reason, it was erected with 2 vehicle access doors and 1 wide personal door all along the one wall. This severely limits any use along that wall and the switchboard and other electronics completed. There is no doubt that the activities taking place in what was meant to be the new men's shed do not use the whole space and could easily be held in which is currently the men's shed. The furniture selected for the new shed is another safety matter. The benches purchased were far too high for our existing chairs. So new chairs were purchased. You might think that's great. But you were asking on 3 days a week for elderly people, mostly over 70, to climb up on a bar stool to either eat their lunch or carry on their activity. I will not use a bar stool in my private life. At 84, and here the council considers that to be satisfactory, I consider it as a definite hazard. I trust you will take these points under consideration and start realising that we live in a democratic country, not a dictatorship by decisions of a minority. Yours hopefully, Geoffrey W. Poop.
Thank you, Speaker. Are there any questions for the Deputy?
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Yeah, like really good insight. Have you spoken to any of the council staff in regards to the matter about the stalls and the height of the
No,
tables?
not council staff, no.
So that's definitely something I guess the staff have made aware of now. So
The decisions seem to have been made by administration, and I just figure that the council should realise what is happening in these various areas.
So in the men's shed, so who runs it? Are you just a member, or are you guys in
I'm a
correspondence?
volunteer at the men's shed.
Yeah. So is someone speaking to council about these issues?
Well, Steve, that supervises the men's shed, is an employee of council, and much as he's mentioned it, it's not in his position as an employee to have a go at council.
It's just a discussion to be had with administration, but thank you for bringing it to our attention. I'm sure there's something can be done about it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Barnett.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. Yes, I'll start with the height of the benches and the bar stool because I can't climb up and down them safely either. So I think that the staff there, and the staff here that are connected with that I'm sure they've taken note of it and we'll follow up on that.
Yeah, the ladies group on Tuesday,
Mm.
men's shed, well, it's men's shed, but it's a ladies group, Chat and Chisel. They're all females and they're all over 70.
Yeah, so certainly noted here. And also, so with the chicanes and the shrub plantings are height. So, do you think, in your opinion, that if there was some just more like some low planting ground cover
would be more sensible?
Yeah,
And
okay.
if you have concerns that vehicles are likely to go over it, then put a low fence across each section. So that if they attempt to go over it, they're going to hit the fence.
Yes, there are. They're not. I don't think the council rules, whatever planning or rules there are. But anyway, so just take a note of that, and we have our council, the outdoor staff. They work in precincts across the city and all that. So I'm sure that the director and the staff that are here tonight have made a note, and we'll discuss that for you. And yes, Harrington, one of our 97 narrow streets, former Night Cart Lane, I think was possibly. But
no, I've got deeds going back to 1850s.
Yeah.
And Harrington Street was a cul-de-sac off Braun Road.
Yeah.
Prospect Road wasn't there. Churchill Road was Lower Mainmouth Road.
Yes.
And everywhere was paddocks.
Yeah, so anyway, so in my time as the ward councillor, there have been a few reiterations of having nothing, and then anyway, I'm not supposed to be discussing. The man might pick me up soon. I have to ask you a question. So, do you have any suggestions, or is it mainly just the fact that it seems some of the decision making has been because there's only been, say, a few residents involved in.
Well, originally the survey was the whole street for one-way street,
Mm.
and that was agreed to, obviously, because they put the signs up.
Mm.
But some at the other end of the street presumably were complaining about people coming down and suddenly realising doing 3-point turns. And even today, people come down there and they've got to park on the opposite side of the road. So they've got to turn the vehicle around to park on the street.
Mm.
And they'll do a 3-point turn, go up somebody's driveway and do a 3-point turn. When you consider the street was widened in the 1930s by 6 feet, it was exceedingly narrow.
Yes, good. All right, I'm sure my fellow ward councillor and I will follow up on that
Thank
for
you.
you.
Thank you. There's no one further question, Councillor Stanley.
Firstly, I must commend you on one of the most eloquent deputations I've seen in this chamber. It was short, concise, well written, and absolutely beautiful. I was down at the men's shed on Saturday morning for your repair cafe,
Yes.
and I did take great delight in actually leaning on the tables that were a good leaning height.
Yes.
But obviously it was only there for about half an hour, so the leaning, you know, if I'd wanted a seat, it would have been up onto a stool.
Yeah.
What would you suggest? I imagine one of the things you could do is lop the legs off, and the men's shed have certainly got the capacity to get a saw out. And
It would be very difficult for those steel benches in their type of construction, the way they're bolted together. They do have cupboards in the middle, but that becomes a bit of a joke. The benches are 1 metre wide, and they've got a door on one side. So if you put something in there and put it at the back of the cupboard, there's no way us old creatures could bend down and get to the back of that cupboard to get it out.
may I suggest, is there an opportunity to maybe look at a mixture of heights within the facility? So, you know, higher heighted ones for those that can use, and maybe consider on a parcel, and maybe a lower area for people who prefer to be sitting down in a regular sized chair.
But as I pointed out, the shed was originally the money was donated because we're so cramped in the men's shed, and we're even worse now. We have to move machines to operate some machines. We have a panel saw, which is a circular saw arrangement. That's up against the wall, and there's no way you could cut a panel on that. So it's just an ordinary bench saw that you'd have at home. So it's been utterly underused in its time. Now I want to make a unit for home. I've had to cut the sheets up at home to take them in there to work on them, because I can't cut them in the shed.
One more question. Obviously, you've given this a bit of thought. As someone who uses it and someone who looks at it quite often, what would you see the path forward?
I would like to see the decision made before the evacuation system is put in for all of the machines. Basically, that's a central exhaust system gathering the sawdust and shavings with ducts running around to each of the machines. Now that's going to be $25,000 or $30,000 that's spent, and to spend it in the current men's shed and still not be able to move safely around the shed, definitely need to consider whether you should spend that money on the large shed. The men's shed as it is at the moment is padded and lined, and to put low tables for the ladies like this to get up and work on, and for us to have our lunch and morning tea, would be, to me, a more sensible process. And you'd have the space in the large men's shed. You're not losing the old shed, because that could be well used for the community functions. We were astonished that there was a butter making demonstration in the men's shed, community thing, but it is a shed. If we clean it immaculately and go home within 2 hours with the wind blowing down the drive, it's a shed. The leaves, the dust come under the door, the place is a mess again. Why didn't they go into the kitchen?
Can I suggest there's an opportunity here to staff to take away the discussion points, and thanks for bringing them to our attention.
Yeah.
It feels like there's a little bit of work to do
Yes.
to dig into a few aspects of it, and I'm sure with a bit of attention and listening carefully to people's concerns, we can certainly put our minds to correcting what can be corrected and taking on board the feedback for future reference as well.
Thanks very much for listening to me.
Oh, yeah, thanks for the presentation. Moving on to item 9, questions without notice. To the left, Councillor Backer.
Yes, just a couple of them. It was just a question arising from a couple of other agenda items, but it's in regards to development. So we've had some significant developments along Prospect Road and obviously Churchill Road. My understanding, when there's a development made, there is allocation if there's a commercial entity for customer parking, staff parking, and for apartments above visitor parking. My question through the chair is there a requirement under the development plan for said developments to advertise parking on their premises and allocate by signage, this is a visitor park, this is a staff park, or this is a customer park? Because that would potentially alleviate some of the on-street car parking if people are aware that they're able to park in those developments.
Thanks for the question, Councillor. I'll direct that one to the CEO. Mr. McCluskey, are you able to answer that question, or will I need to take that on notice?
Through the chair, with perhaps just a rephrasing of the reference to the Planning Design Code, noting the state controls that rather than council's development plan. No, there's no direct requirement in the Planning Design Code to advertise on-site car parking or to sort of have line marking that specifies a designation.
Fantastic. Just maybe another question through the chair. Is it possible that that could be an agenda item either at a council meeting or an SBDPC meeting in the near future?
CEO. Mr. Mayor, through you, I would suggest you raise that as a motion, either to council for consideration by SBDPC or indeed as a motion to the SBDPC.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Backer. Any further questions without notice? Not seeing anything, so we'll move on quickly. Item 10, reports for decision 10.1, integrated transport plan, recommendations on page 5. I'm going to recommend we suspend meeting procedures for 30 minutes if we need to discuss this because it's a significant piece of work. It's a high priority for this council to have delivered and to potentially adopt the plan, and there's a lot more which will drop out of the recommendations and the next steps. I will then call for a show of hands. All those in favour? Against? So suspending meeting procedures until 7:52, and I believe first of all on the screen we have some suggested amendments put forward by, I believe, Councillor Backer. So what I'm going to do is ask us to consider those. If we are happy to consider some or all of them, then we will add them into the recommendations and then we'll move forward with the normal voting process. Any that aren't incorporated in what we vote on can be considered as part of the moving and seconding process, but then that will be applying the rules around that as well. So let's just take a minute to review.
Mr. Mayor, is there any more following? We've got a lot to read and understand there.
You mean, is that it, or are there more?
Yeah.
Let's see.
How much more is there? Is that it?
That's it.
What's another one? Oh, that's okay. It's quite short. I think the other one was captured. Yeah, okay, yeah. So basically, well, I'll talk to referring out of meeting procedures. A lot of it relates to the narrow streets policy and the fact that in the plan, it actually is prescriptive. So it talks about 7.2 metres width. So my understanding previously, we had a narrow streets policy. I got onto the policy and procedures page, City of Prospect website. There is no narrow streets policy. My understanding it's been incorporated into the parking management policy. So that reference is incorrect. The other thing is, because our obligation is to allow 3 metre clearance through a roadway, irrespective of the width of the road. So I was talking to Councillor Standing just before about large vehicles, like a Ram. I think they're about 300 or 400 wide, whereas a Corolla is about 1800 wide. So you could have, you know, a road that's 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.4. If you've got two cars that are of a size, or vehicles that are of a size, and someone can't get through, we're still obligated to manage that. So I think in keeping the prescriptive nature out of the plan, that may fall into procedural documents as a guide. I just wanted to, so a lot of these are repeated as far as where they appear on the plan, and you know, if these are seen as administrative changes, so I've probably tried to do the administrative changes myself, but in effect get rid of the prescriptive nature of mentioning 7.2 in the plan itself. The other issue we've had, and I know narrow streets policy is going to be revised, narrow streets is not defined in road rules. So every single council has a different definition of narrow streets. And I don't know why we're not, through our ERA or local government association, looking for consistency in this area. And that's probably a discussion for another day. But the second part that I was looking at, that I've sent through, was in relation to the PLP. Yeah, so we've got a diagram on page, I did have it written in there, PLP, move reference to diagram of PLP at page 29, item 10.1 I think it was, because it actually shows the vehicle movements from a mythical development, and I think it shouldn't be in a planning document because we haven't landed on anything yet. So it shows vehicle movements onto Kintore, and until we land on what's happening and that kind of thing. The last thing was, when we did the initial phase 1 development, we put out fact sheets. We never talked about a PLP traffic plan. It's kind of appeared, and obviously this is a very fast moving thing. So up until now, we've had event parking. So and thank you to Christina Barnett all those years ago, because obviously there was a consistent, you know, push and shove when we have events at the Oval or in the precinct there. We've got the flip over signs. So we've got an event action, which is looking at, instead of saying on Saturday or Sunday, we're going to do event parking, which in theory is fine, but then we have to communicate to our community when an event's on and when it's not. What we're finding is that in some of these streets like Wilcox, Alpha, Kintore, outside of those game days, we're actually getting a lot of parking. But with Prospect Lifestyle Precinct, if you look at the plan, it's just around, I think it's on page 29 as well, it's just limited to the precinct itself. My thinking would be, why aren't we looking at the same scope and over Main North Road for the PLP precinct? So I've suggested we also include all those other streets.
I think as part of the PLP project, the traffic engineers that we've engaged are looking at the broader picture.
But that's not what's clear on here though. It only shows around the precinct.
Well, yeah, but this also refers to this as an opportunity plan, and it makes mention that it's indicative as well.
It's quite small compared to the potential impact, because you could say that the impact, and then we're looking to activate it every day. That's the purpose of the PLP. So it would be game day every day in effect. So I guess what I'm looking for is a bigger recognition that the PLP traffic management plan actually captures a larger area. It's not just limited to what's indicated on page 53. Because obviously when this building was built, the impact to Vine Street and Flora were straight away.
So there is a lot there, as Councillor Barnett's pointed out.
Yeah.
I don't really want to spend all of our time debating every dot point. Is there anything in there, has everyone had enough time to review? Is there anything in there that people are significantly opposed to, Councillor Barnett?
Oh, not opposed to. I thank Councillor De Backer and it's quite timely. We had a query about Narrow Street. But I'm just thinking, with Councillor De Backer's approval, because as you said, she's gone into a lot of detail, and it's good research, but then I'm not right up with this, if, you know, so I'm just thinking if we can just have some broad that Councillor De Backer might want to like review.
I could simplify it to remove prescriptive references to narrow roads in the plan and remove the image of the PLP, and the final one would review the extent of the PLP parking management.
Yeah.
So that's 3 dot points, which would be more succinct.
Could I just check through the Mayor and perhaps the CEO with Part 3? It says authorises Chief Executive Officer to make any other minor amendments. Would what Councillor De Backer's been talking about be included in that? We've got the description of what's intended.
Your
Through the
thoughts,
Mayor?
CEO? So, through Mr Mayor, it is conceivable that most of these changes at least could be made as administrative amendments were we minded to do so. The advice to staff though is that we're not necessarily supportive of these. So I think the question comes down to members' appetite to do that, and perhaps if members have detailed questions, potentially guided by Councillor De Backer, I'm happy for those to be put to staff and discussed. It may take a while because there's a bit there, but it's really noting this is a strategic plan. Members may feel that that might be an advisable approach, and if so, through you, Mr Mayor, I would invite the staff to be engaged on those.
How do you propose that we do that, CEO? Not tonight, surely? Subsequent to tonight?
Mr Mayor, that doesn't matter for you as the chair. If not tonight, then members, what you may do is adopt the plan and then maybe have it reviewed in time, noting that there are annual reports due on this process going forward. So it's not like it's a static plan that's set in stone. It really depends upon, I think, members, your appetite for adopting it or discussing this tonight or potentially deferring it. It's obviously been something that's been on the path for a long time. We've consulted this a number of times, but I am aware, of course, that the final plan now gives members the opportunity to consider some of their more nuanced potential concerns. It's a matter for members really, and for you, Mr Mayor, what you want to do with it.
I'll hand to Councillor Green in a minute, but I think the difficulty is that a page worth of suggested amendments dropped on us at very short notice with no context before and after the references that have been put forward makes it very difficult for any of us to consider them, and I'm not of a mind to simply adopt them en masse without having had the opportunity to discuss and consider them. Councillor Green?
Almost what you said, Mr Mayor. As I look through the list, there are some that I would support, there are some that I wouldn't support, and there's some I actually don't know if I'd support or not without assessing what's been said with the plan itself. So I was going to suggest if we could let it lay on the table, at least gives us an opportunity to even consider the same motion next time, but with the opportunity to actually talk about it. Councillor Backer might want to talk to us individually as well about the amendments. The other thing I was going to say was... No, I'll just leave it at that. So, yeah, my view would be to leave it on the table. Oh, that's what I was going to say. It would be useful to have got that in writing prior to tonight. I'm not sure when it came through to administration, but it would have been a useful thing to have.
I don't think we can consider it. I think first I'd like to acknowledge that the report and the effort that's gone into it by the team. This is something that's been a long time coming. It's a foundation building exercise. There's a lot of fantastic work there. It's given us insights that we've never had before. Not everybody is happy with the entire content and with the approach that's been taken, but I would like to personally thank the team for the work. I do think that it's reasonable that we consider these, but not tonight. And what I'd suggest is that let the motion lie. We give the staff an opportunity to review and provide feedback regarding each of the dot points, and then it comes back to us at the next council meeting And I know I can't make things up on the spot, although, it'd be good if you could, but we almost need a freeze on these sorts of things, a certain number of days out from the meeting, and anything that comes after that point in time won't be considered, because it puts us in a very difficult position. Councillor Bennett, sorry, Becca, and then I'll give other people a chance to have their say as well.
I do try to make motions as good as possible. I don't do this for fun. And, if the feedback from staff and the feedback was, no, we can't do this, if it's kind of like, oh, maybe consolidate the dot points, that's feedback for me, because I wasn't to know what's administrative and what's not. So I was so maybe I did too much. So that's my fault. But I don't think elected leaders should be discouraged from trying to make our community's plans better, and that's what I've endeavoured to do, so hopefully you can see that. And I think the really important one, if you go down, is actually about the Harrington. Now, we've just opened the biggest residential building in Prospect Road, and the 40 kilometres starts after Yochi, and I've seen families going, I'm getting quite upset now, across the road, and why is this not just done as business as usual? Why hasn't this been planned as part of the open space, and the Harrington footpath still hasn't been fixed? So I think with motions like this, we're endeavouring for our central ward, especially around narrow streets, because it's the number one thing we get asked for. And we've already got guidance documents that have 7.2 metres. That's fine, but just take it out of the plan, because people drive big vehicles. And that needs to be recognised.
All your points are reasonable, but the problem is that we're faced with trying to sift through a page worth of amendments.
And that feedback could have been given to me at 10 o'clock this morning.
Well, take that on.
By the mayor.
Who did you address? The CEO? Sorry?
To governance, I always address it.
Caution we tell there. Anybody else got any points they want to discuss? Councillor Nelson?
I fully agree with you and Councillor Frick. There are some things there that I would absolutely support. I don't think I think having some time to consider them, I think is good. Bring it back next month, but maybe even a half-hour chat, half-hour workshop through November to discuss some of these things. If we can squeeze it in to allow Councillor De Backer to get her points across, and we can all discuss it and give feedback. If we can just tackle on a half an hour or something, we want to have workshops, I think would be ideal. But I do want to give some feedback. I don't want to waste my notes. Is that all right? I don't want to waste my notes here.
So, you, Councillor.
I just want to have, there's just 2 points I wanted to make with the layout. I think it was an excellent layout, but I would question 2 of the photos that we've used. One is a photo on the bottom of the cover page, council vehicle parked in a no standing zone. And on page 27, you've got another vehicle parked on...
Fake news, I think.
Okay. And on page 27, a normal vehicle parked over a yellow line, obviously those are now.
I think that's points well made. Any other further discussions?
Sorry.
Okay, so it looks like we're moving towards Deputy Mayor Trinh Nguyen to.
I just want to thank the team for putting this together. It's a great piece of work. It's a long time coming, so thank you for that. And I just want to thank Councillor De Backer for the recommendations and the changes. It is a bit for us to take on. Like I was trying to read it and I'm just trying to process it too. But thank you for taking the time and doing that. Like I appreciate that. You're representing your constituents, and it would be great if we can have a workshop to go through it thoroughly.
Thank you. So just to confirm, what we're aiming for is for the staff to, and all of us to consider the suggested amendments put forward by Councillor Backer. We hold a 30-minute workshop to go through the feedback, have some further discussions, and that will help inform what comes to us at the next council meeting. And if there's anybody else who's got any further feedback, there's now ample opportunity to provide that and for it to be considered.
I just want to say I'm on board with the others. It's just too many dot points there, just too much to read and process at the same time. So it's supported.
Yep. Doesn't matter whether. Okay, so I think the easiest path is so we have got a couple of options. We can let it lay on the table. There's more of a formal mechanism around that. The simpler process, which will have the same outcome, is that we defer it until the next council meeting. So if everyone's happy for the simpler process, I just need a show of hands. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, can I just ask a question first, Mayor? Deferral versus lay on the table, do either give you the opportunity or administration the opportunity to change the recommendation, or must the recommendation come back exactly as it is tonight? Because it'd be nice to have resolved some of the issues from Councillor Backer prior to the motion coming back, rather than trying to just...
Because there were to be amendments, not a
That's
new
right.
motion. So this is not the motion, because I wasn't going to move it. I was going to...
Yeah, it's not a motion at this point in time, it's just a recommendation.
I'm just wondering whether what we get is exactly what we saw tonight, or whether if we've resolved some of the issues and we've agreed to it, whether that can form part of the motion. And I'll hold my speech about the genesis of this from 2017 until next time.
And also cloth nappies.
Oh, don't get me started. Do not get me started.
I'm just waiting for the whispering behind to reach its natural conclusion. CEO.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, just to answer your question, if I may, either deferral or laying on the table won't change the recommendation because it's the same report, right? So you defer the same report, it comes back in its current form. If you lay it on the table, then again it's in its current form. I think the only way around that would be essentially for members to pass a motion saying we have concerns and we would like them addressed in a new report, essentially, which might be basically the same report with a different motion on it. But unless you deal with this item, if you defer it or bring it back and lay it on the table, it'll be the same recommendation. Now, that's not to say that members can't pass an amendment or that they couldn't consider an alternative something if you defer or lay it on the table. It's not a big deal to us, but maybe to you.
I think, can I put forward that some of the recommendations put forward or amendments put forward by Councillor Backer could be considered administrative in their nature, and some of them aren't. I think we would adopt them if we had time to review them. So
some of the things were I wasn't aware of earlier, so it was through conversations with residents and things like that. So, but you could have the same recommendation come back, and I can just do some dot point amendments and just the 0.7 with the 40k. That's really the only change.
Once we synthesise what you've suggested through a brief workshop.
Can I make a suggestion? Because if nobody moves or seconds it, nothing happens. And all the staff concerned know, we know, and there's an opportunity then to come back and do make some take on board what I was going to say here.
CEO, through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. If you let it lapse, Councillor's exactly right.
So if we let it lapse, then we have a workshop, we consider these amendments and anything else that's put forward, we then reformulate the recommendation and it comes to us at the next meeting.
Members, I don't know exactly what staff's position is on each and every one of these items and whether the recommendation will mirror, for example, everything Councillor Backer wants. You are likely to see some changes and I think from there the question will be, again, you get the agenda on Thursday afternoon. How much time will there be for Councillor Backer to reformulate her views with a revised, presumably, amendment? Because I'm quite certain that the staff and Councillor Backer don't have a complete alignment on all her proposed changes.
But we are going to have a workshop.
Yes, that is true.
So I think we let it lapse. We have a workshop. We accept what might be considered administrative changes. We have the opportunity to discuss, and then the recommendations reformulated, and then if people want to take it and pass at that point in time, they can.
Sorry, Mayor, can I just double check? I thought the advice was if it lapses or deferred or not, we don't do anything with it, the recommendation stays as is.
Lay on the table and lapse different? Same thing.
They are different. I spoke to a motion to defer it and a motion to let it lay on the table versus lapsing.
Okay.
We didn't speak about lapsing, that is different.
Is everyone happy to move back into formal session? And I will now call us back in the formal session at 7:40 something or other. And
Is that official
time? I'll call for a mover. No mover. I'll call for a seconder. Motion's lapsed, and we have a course of action. I think that's quite reasonable. Thank you for your contribution. Let's move on to item 10.2, quarterly projects update, page 157 as usual. A solid report. Do I have a mover? Councillor Nelson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Happy to get this going. I love these reports. Go through these with a fine-tooth comb. It's a great report as always. I especially love that Method's Park has now commenced. You know, for my personal thing, this is the last remaining election calls I made 3.5 years ago, 3 years ago. So it's good to see that finally getting off the ground and getting started. I think it's great to see the progress at Islington and the mobilisation of the TBM. I know, talking to Sam, he's got a few more little legal issues there, but it's great to see that finally happening. I note we do still have an issue with one of the residents on Henrietta Street. Maybe I'll just pause my motion here while I speak to you while I ask how that's going. If I can pass that question through the Mayor, perhaps.
CEO, forgive me, I was taking notes. Mr. Mayor, if I can...
Sorry, there's one issue remaining on Henrietta Street with driveway access that I believe was being... I've been copying a few emails back and forth, but nothing back in the last week or so about rectification.
Through the Mayor, I might pass it on to Mr. Delena or Mr. Leedig, if either of you can answer the question. Mr. Delena.
Through the Mayor, I'm aware of online communication with respect to just a minor access issue. One resident, we've been engaging with our contractor. I've spoken to the manager of projects in project delivery just recently on that particular issue. We've got to work around and we're hoping to resolve that as soon as possible.
Thank you. I'll go back to you and advise. I think in terms of the lighting on Charles Kane, question again, what happens if the grant application is successful but council is unable to find the matching $200,000 funding without consultation?
So, through you, Mr. Mayor, we will not be able to sign the grant agreement. Members, in essence, though, what you're doing, if you accept this recommendation in its current form, is, as far as I'm concerned, you're essentially inking this into your capital budget for 26-27 anyway. So, unless members were to rescind that motion, I think it's in there. That's my reading of what you've got in front of you. Ms. Midro, any? Yeah.
So, in other words, so this is not something that's been engaged by us. This has been something that's been engaged, obviously, by BOSA. BOSA. So sorry. More or less forcing it on us to get this done, and that's what I read. Forcing the recommendation.
I had a discussion earlier on tonight. The timing of this is it's a state government grant, but it's not useful from a local government perspective, given that we all do our budgets at around the same time, and ideally there'd be some alignment there. It's not the first time we've come up against these sorts of scenarios. But yeah, it did come from BOSA, noting that it's on behalf of both tenants. They've submitted it, but they have consulted with both the clubs that play there in the winter season. I don't think it's a summer season thing, it's a winter season thing.
And one last point there, I'm not terribly happy. I think I've read the Arborist report three times on the kindergarten tree. I think that's a magnificent It's great to see that tree out the front in that corner. I'd love to try and get a workaround. I've read the Arborist report 3 times. I don't see it. So as much as it's not happy, I don't think we have much of an option. Apart from that, well done, team.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder motion? Councillor Groot.
Thank you. Yes, happy to second it. I had no comments that haven't already been covered, but I just did want to say on the St Helens Kindergarten one, in talking to the kindy director just recently, he was very complimentary with the interactions with staff in terms of dealing with this issue. It is tricky. My children have gone through that kindergarten. I always have a love for the tree, but also in terms of the condition of the kindy, it's pretty ordinary. So, but more importantly, I just want to pass on that really positive feedback. Often we don't get the positive feedback as readily as we do with the not so positive. So I think it's worth at least publicly acknowledging staff's interaction with the kindy on that. Apart from that, again, good report. It's always good to read everything. I do agree with the concept, and I've said this many, many times in this room, that we pre-commit our budget to projects when we put in grant applications. It makes me very nervous because our priorities may very well change, and it would be somewhat embarrassing, I think, if we get a grant that we can't commit to a matching dollar for dollar. And I wonder whether there's another way to try to do that through the budget, whether we have, we actually identify, matching dollars, and we actually know we're going to match some grants at some point in the future without identifying exactly what that is, because otherwise we just lock our budget up before we're really making a budget decision tonight, or when we put those applications in. So anyway, I've said that before, still nervous about it, but money from government is always good to try and pass with that.
Thank you. Any further discussions?
Yeah, look, if we can take this in parts as well, there's a few that I won't be supportive of. And it's a bit of a shame because I guess any time there is grant applications, which is great because again we're getting assistance from the government, but I guess I always look at priorities. So we the clubs are great, they lobby a lot to get things done, but it's the smaller organisations, like the community garden and the men's shed and those kind of things, and it's like their facilities, and even like we've heard the public toilets in Memorial Gardens recently. I mean, that, why isn't that first off the mark as far as, getting capital grants? So I guess I'm really just, again, there doesn't seem to be a workaround, but I won't be supporting the removal of the tree. And fundamentally, we didn't support a master planning project that was actually suggested for kindergartens. That wasn't funded. And I think St Helens Park is a perfect example of where we could be working with state government to do a master plan of St Helens Park. It needs to have a new building. It could be in a different location in the park. And I think it would have been really good to have had that work done prior to this happening. So though I won't be supportive, it probably will get up. Because obviously they need that room, but it's just a shame that, again, another tree bites the dust. So if we can take it in parts, I'd appreciate it.
Happy to take it. All those in favour of taking it in parts? Sorry. Thanks for letting me know, but I don't need your input. I knew that was just being democratic,
Thanks, but no thanks.
We'll take it in parts. Any further discussion before we circle back to the mover? Deputy Mayor Nguyen?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a small comment about the funding for the lights. It is a significant amount of money for this to happen, and if they get the grant, we're committing the funds, that we could potentially be using for other things. So I just wanted to speak about, what other benefits to the community it may have if we get these lights done. So is it going to be solely for the club's use, or this could be used in other ways to help the community? Is there going to be community use from installing these lights?
Take that as a question. I certainly think it's a good suggestion. I don't think it's considered as part of this particular application, but when we were talking earlier on about how well activated that space is in the evenings and well into the night time, and so potentially improved lighting could have a broader community benefit all year round, particularly in summertime when the atmosphere is fairly good down there. But I don't think it takes that into account, but it is a good suggestion. Any further discussion? From the chair, I'm not going to be required to put forward a casting vote on this one, but I would be strongly likely to support 0.7. And I've said it many times that the clubs within our community are doing our job for us. They're building community, and they're providing valuable opportunities for many members of the community to get involved with things. There's nothing stopping anyone coming forward to provide a deputation to us from any of the organisations in our community for support, and I guess I congratulate the ones who take the opportunity to do so. if there's no further discussion, I'll head back to Councillor Nelson for.
Just before I do sum up, if I may ask just one question. What is the quality of the lighting at Charles Cameron's Reserve now?
It's not good enough to play lacrosse under. It's probably okay to train under. And I think that the lighting has probably deteriorated over time, and it was pretty much cobbled together, remembering that back in the day we grabbed the excess lights from Broadview Oval and dropped them in there as somewhat of a temporary solution. So it's never been addressed by council proactively, I don't think, with regards to what it should be. We've relied on the clubs co-funding it in the past, and that's as far as I can comment.
It's interesting how these things work, because I came in here with obviously my speech and how these things were, and as much as I wasn't happy with the way BOSA, sorry, I'm going to use this BOSA thing, the way BOSA came about, almost the forcefulness of we want this motion, you've got to put forward this motion. I wasn't happy with the way they did that. I love sports and I love these guys having this lighting and whatnot. Councillor Backer brings up a valid point in regards to there's obviously some other projects we have that are more important. Some kids running around under lights and everything else. Then I go back to the work we did with North Adelaide Football Club, and in fact we upgraded their lighting for, it ended up costing council 50 grand because we found some workarounds. We didn't have to find $400,000 to upgrade some lights on a reserve used in winter. So I think following up through this debate, I like the way we debate things. My mind has changed the whole way we support it. I just think there's other things that we can do with $200,000 that is more important to the community. But apart from that, I think everything is here. The report you guys put together was excellent. It's good to see that the work's coming along, and I'll defend the motion.
Thank you. So taking it in parts. Part one, all those. Part one, all those in favour. Against, carried unanimously. Part two, all those in favour. Against, carried unanimously. Part three, all those in favour. Against, motion carried. Part four, all those in favour. Against, carried unanimously. Part five, all those in favour. Against, carried unanimously. Part six, all those in favour. Against, carried unanimously. Part seven, all those in favour. Against, motion carried. Part eight, all those in favour. Against, motion carried. It's waiting for a debate. Haven't had one.
No, I just wanted to say.
Democracy.
The video doesn't.
Thanks to everyone's contribution on that item. 10.3 budget review recommendations are there on page 206. Do I have a mover? Councillor Nelson.
Oh, no, let's put the hand up. I'll do it again. I mean, reading through this again, everything's in viable, everything's in line. I understand the carryovers, no one likes carryovers, but we understand that needs to happen, and also understand we need to move funds from one project to another. It gets very, very messy, but it all makes sense. I guess one of the things, and obviously it's a personal thing for me, is there's been a lot of talk the last couple of weeks, and it's not beginning this one, there's a lot of talk around the constant talk of the timing of the build-out and the changing of the timeline. From my perspective, we set the timeline out 2 years ago. It was ambitious. Council was always get attacked for not doing what they said they were going to do. I firmly believe that we need to strive forward and do what we set out and stop talking about intentional delays. Stop talking about changing timelines. We set it, we need to set our own timeline. Intentionally delaying it will only make us look unprofessional. The last 2 weeks I've spoken to about 25 to 30 residents about the PLP. 6 have expressed their concerns and the rest were excited and encouraged us to get on with what we're supposed to do. So I just want us to get on with it. So budget review 1, all looks good, and I can motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Holland, would you like to speak to the motion?
Look, I think it's, I'm with Councillor Nelson here. I think, you know, it's not just a timeline that it's almost, it's that momentum also. We've just got everyone working together. Look, you know, there is some need for, you know, that extra capital. It's just a requirement. We're talking about a massive project here that is many multiples of that. I think it's just something we need to do, and you know, we need to keep going on it. And I think the timeline's good. I think we've given adequate time for 4 weeks for the consultation's been good. I think we've, you know, we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's, and I think this is just something we need to go with. Supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Any further discussion, Councillor De Backer and then Councillor Green?
It's always good to have different views around the table.
Okay.
It is very healthy. Page 211, a total increase of expenditure of 227,000 for the PLP has been included as part of budget review 1. But there was quite a sizable budget at the beginning of, you know, the year, which is not that long ago, the annual budget and the business plan. And I think we need to change our language around this. I think we've done more than being on time for the PLP, because we've actually brought a good chunk of it forward. So the MRF we've brought forward, the details of which is not in the public realm, but the decision is in the public realm. And so I think when we're talking about budgets, we need to separate the MRF, I'm just calling it community hub, community centre, or whatever you want to call it, and the East Link. I think they're two separate things, and I think with our budget reflecting has to say that. So I think to say that we're not delivering, we are, but we can't do everything. And like 227,000, if you convert that into a rate increase, that's a couple of %. So this is all pre-planning work dependent on other things. At the end of the day, we've got a lot of planning work. So if things don't come through, it's a lot of money spent. So I think, and this is why I keep talking to, you know, say things with the PLP, it's the whole precinct. And I think there are different projects within that precinct, and to communicate to our community, they just see this massive figure. So if we actually start separating out those in some of our reporting, that will certainly help. And I disagree with Councillor Nelson that we're not doing things fast enough. I think as far as this term, we've done enough with bringing forward the MRF. That's enough. And you can see the CEO's remarks in here that we are doing a lot. And certainly Audit and Risk Committee have said that we've basically got strategic project overload. So I think let's claim the wins and say we've focused on the MRF this term. And I think the whole project is too immature for the branding exercise. I won't be voting for some of those points. I love the presentation. I think it's great at the right time. But I won't be happy to change my mind.
Thank you, Councillor Backer. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I just want to say thank you to the staff for bringing us the budget review, just to not overshadow it just around one particular issue, but thank you very much. It's always a lot of work that goes into this. I wasn't necessarily going to talk about timing or budget or anything like that, but the move and the second of both opened the door to allow that to happen, so thank you very much. And would can't probably disagree more with Councillor Holland and Councillor Nelson on the issue of timing. I think you're correct in saying that it is our timing. It's not embarrassing to change our timing. We change our timing on things all the time. Tonight we let lapse a motion on the table that has been going around in one form or another since November 2017. So, you know, I think for us to say we want to reserve our timing for something come hell or high water, I think is probably irresponsible at one level, but I don't think it's a defensive position for this particular motion. I would agree with Councillor Backen. There'll be no surprise there, of course, that I won't be supporting all the recommendations in this motion, so I'll just talk slow because the Mayor's doing my thing to catch up. Mayor, I was just going to ask if we can take it in parts, if that's okay. I just want to make sure you're able to hear that when I ask the question.
Yep.
That would be good, thank you. And you know, I always chuckle when we have these conversations about how much we do or how big we go. And I think back to the brochures, which I still have at home of everyone around the table when they went for election 3.5 years ago, talking about back to basics, let's get back to basics. And I think taking more time on something that is actually quite important is not, well, certainly I might even argue is consistent with that, but we certainly have done a lot in this term, and we've got a lot to be proud of. And I don't think we should be rushing something through. We had the budget, we sat in this chamber 4 months ago, this time 4 months ago, approved a budget, and $140,000 to Councillor Nelson's point earlier, you know, that is the lights at Charles County Reserve, or it's a playground upgrade, or it's more curbing or more for cars, or it's a rate relief for people with facility prices. So I just don't think that we should be adding to the PLP budget right now, particularly given that 4 months ago we set a very healthy budget for the process. And I just can't agree to those recommendations of the motion and won't vote for them. But I want to finish with what I started with. Thank you to the staff and the Director and Manager of Finance who have pulled this together for us, because you know, managing a $34 million budget a year is and just want to say thank you for that. I will support some, but not all. Thank you, Mayor, for taking the points.
No problems. Any further discussion? Councillor Barnett?
I mean, this is budget review 1. We'll have budget review 2, budget review 3. I mean, these are snapshots in time, basically. And a budget is there to manage, you know, all the different flows and to manage the different risks and all that sort of type of thing. So I'm confident in this coming from quite experienced staff in this area, and I think if there does need to be some adjustment somewhere and other things, it could happen in budget 2 review. You know, so I mean, this is what happens in managing a council's finances. Yeah, just what I wanted to say.
Any further discussion? I will just say from the chair, page 206, the key financial indicators, 3 green ticks and a orange arrow. A quick question.
Because we're way ahead of target.
Yeah. So for the previous period, were we further ahead or were we behind? Which way is that trend going?
In which category, Mr. Mayor?
The asset renewal funding ratio.
So, Betty, can you speak to our trending on asset renewal funding ratio, please?
So through Chair, the ratio has been higher than the target range over the last couple of years, but it is moving in the right direction in terms of coming back closer to the target. So it's closer this year than what it was last year.
Right, also just Mr. Mayor, again a reflection of the well advanced body of work that Mr. Delana's team performed in terms of our new asset management plans, which will better define that portion of capital spend classified as renewal, and that'll further help the issue.
So for me, it's encouraging to see those indicators are either right on the money where our industry says they should be, or if they're not, they're trending in the right direction. It suggests sound financial management. It does suggest living within our means. It doesn't suggest skyrocketing out of control borrowing at all. So I'd like to thank the team for the work that they do here and for delivering those outcomes. Seeing as everyone's talked about the PLP, I might as well chip in as well. So I'm pretty familiar with project management. I'm not a project manager myself, but I work in that space. There's some projects where you can nail the scope just about to the dollar up front. Engineering projects typically tend to be like that, but there are other projects such as this one where it's simply impossible to capture every element of the project 2 years out or even 1 year out, because we need to react and respond to emerging opportunities, and that's what the team is doing here. I also know that there is a right pace to run a project, and you can't make a project more successful just by arbitrarily speeding it up or arbitrarily slowing it down either. There is the right speed at which a project is most successfully delivered, and I know that for certain all day, every day. There's no indicators that I can see that we are not going at the right pace with this project, so I'm comfortable with the pace that we're going at. And there's just a couple of points I'd like to make. If there's no further comments, I'll head back to Councillor Nelson to sum up, and then we will take it in parts.
Can't actually stole my thunder. I was going to say exactly that. Being involved in project management for quite some time, and just to correct, I never said in my opening, I never said that we're moving too slow. I did not say that. What I said was that we're moving at the right pace, but I don't think we should slow things down. That was my statement. Certainly don't want to speed things up. I think we're operating at a good pace now. It's a pace that we can maintain. And certainly a lot of these refundings, reassignment is coming from other capital budgets. So it's not like we can take this out of our operating budget fund or anything else. It's being moved around for unallocated funds. So it's unfortunate that we can't just rip this out and go and do something else with it. They've been allocated because of either savings or unallocated funds, which is a good use of the funds to maintain the use of the strategies, the branding and the communication, ongoing communication. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Thanks for the summary. We'll put it to the vote. So we're taking these in parts. Part 1, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Part 2, all those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Part 3, all those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Part 4, all those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Part 5, all those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Part 6, all those in favour? Against? Moving on to item 10.4, naming rights proposal, recommendation 225. I'm happy to move this from the chair, and I've got a few notes here that I will fire up. So I actually think this is a fairly simple one. The points I would like to make, some of them are reinforcing and some of them are opinions. So reading from the report, the proposed naming rights would see Prospect Oval Anthony Yata referred to as Revo Fitness Oval in all official communications, signage and digital platforms for both Sandford AFL football and the South Australian District Cricket League SACA. So that's the extent of it. It's not saying that forevermore it should always be known under a different name, and I don't think people would support that. It's simply for the purposes of effective communication in season for those two sports. Secondly, again, reading directly from the report, benchmarking with other councils demonstrates from strong precedents for naming rights agreements across Sandford and SACA venues of 8 Sandford grounds, excluding Prospect Oval. 7 currently have naming rights arrangements, that is every other one except for Alberton Oval, I believe. And further, this positions Prospect Oval to align with contemporary practices in South Australian sport. It was put forward during discussion via email that Adelaide Oval is an example where there is no external signage, and that's incorrect. The plaza out the front along War Memorial Drive is the NRMA Plaza. I drove past there today and there's no less than 7 signs out the front in various locations highlighting the fact that it is the NRMA Plaza. So there's a pretty good precedence if you ask me. I think it's a feather in the North Adelaide Football Club's cap, and I think vicariously ours as well, that they have been able to attract a national brand to sponsor the Oval, which sits comfortably alongside a global brand being RM Williams, which is a sponsor of the club. And I think that's a testament to the work that's been done by the organisation. If the proposal was to consider naming the stadium the Dunkin' Donuts Stadium, I don't think I would be supporting it, but there is a strong brand alignment with Revo Fitness and our drive towards creating a wellness and lifestyle precinct, and we're dealing with an organisation that is deeply rooted in the community. Its mission statement is in fact to positively influence people's lives by making fitness simple, affordable, accessible. I think that's a great mission statement, and I would certainly like to be aligned with a brand. Specifically, the revenue received through this sponsorship will be directed toward funding the women's football program, the newly established under-18 girls program, and also reinforcing the work done through the country and regional football programs. So all very worthy channels and all very worthy programs that deserve support. So from my perspective, I don't have any concerns with that, so I'm happy to move the motion. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bennett.
Yes, I've been quite resistant over many years when this topic comes up, but I think if we look, council's involvement is limited to just granting consent and approving the signage locations, and it's not a party to the actual sponsorship agreement. So that's between I just lost my notes here. Revo, that's right, I knew it wasn't Rev. Revo Fitness and the North Adelaide Football Club and the Prospect District Cricket Club. So I think that it will directly support the financial sustainability of North Adelaide Football Club and Prospect District Cricket Club. And there's no impact on public access or council's own naming convention. We'll still be calling that, and whatever we have on our maps and wherever we're talking about it and that. So there's a clear separation. That we're not signing the agreement. We're not doing it. We're doing it because we're asked to do it because it's under development approvals under the Planning, Development and Infrastructure Act. That is where the responsibility with the three involved lays, not us. I think it's a good, I've done some research about Revo and other clubs, other ovals. So from its website, I think it seems to be a good fit with a Prospect Council's ethos and a Prospect Lifestyle Precinct vision and the aims of wellness, lifestyle, community facilities. I note that Revo pays their respects to all members of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community and their cultures, and that they have other levels of action built on that. And Revo Fitness partners across Australia, providing financial support to a range of sporting clubs, community programs, charitable organisations across Australia. And it's a partner of the Adelaide 36ers and North Adelaide Football Club. So I think that it really does fit in, I think, with any of our sort of ethos and aims that we might have for our community and for our club and for our city. And I just think that I'm not all that happy with the huge amount. So I know this has to go through planning and that. But I'm not very happy with the big sign that's over the top of the entrance facing Menzies Crescents. So I'm just hoping somewhere whoever's handling that side of things might hear what I'm saying. Yeah. Oh, and also I did ask, I sent this through to the appropriate director, but how council street signage has, points to where, so we'll be keeping our Human Prospect Oval and our name with that, and it points to like where the air raid shelter is, it points to where the other sporting clubs are and so forth. So I'm just assuming would there just be, I don't know, through to staff that on the signage of our street signage, would there be an extra directional sign left as part of like place making, I guess. So people like me, if you go to other ovals and you can't remember what the current name is.
My understanding is that what is there will stay, and that the naming will be referred to in all official communications, signage and digital platforms for both Sandford, AFL Football and the SACA. So only from their perspective would they refer to it as that, and from our perspective we can call it Prossy Oval, or we can call it the Oval or Prospect Oval, or whatever we like to call it.
Yeah, good, okay, thanks.
Any further discussion? Councillor Nelson and then Deputy Mayor Trindwin.
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, I think you're right. Now, congratulations goes out to North Adelaide Football Club on securing yet another major sponsor. So I think it's great that we're getting more and more support for the Roosters, and obviously any financial assistance that can go into that community, the women's sports and the kids teams, everything else is excellent. Similar to Councillor Barnett, the only issue I have is with regards to the signage. I did start to draft up an amendment, but I don't want to do it through that way. I will urge, and I do note that the President and CEO are sitting in the gallery, so I would urge a combination of the President and CEO with our team, so with the Council team, just to pay homage and pay respect to the agreement. I have no issue, my personal views, I have no issue with the signage on the scoreboards and inside the oval, but I think as it only is Revo Fitness Oval on game days, then I think certainly for the signage, the little, what do they look like, a metre by metre signs on the fencing, I think they should put up before the game and removed after the game on game days. Otherwise you may sort of cause some confusion with residents. We also don't know how that's going to tie in with our branding exercise we do with the PLP. There's a lot going on in that space, so I would just urge both executives to think about how that can be done and paying homage to the area. But apart from that, congratulations to the Roosters and yeah, good luck.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, just in line with what everyone has said already, it's great to see a business that was started by someone at the age of 20 giving back to the community. So I think it's a great collaboration for them and for the football club, and to get a bit of money to assist with things that they need to do. So I'm totally supportive of it. And yeah, in regards to the naming, like as I said before, I'm not really that into sports, but along with what Councillor Nelson has just said as well, it is just for 2 years, I believe, the contract or the agreement. So it's not going to be
a 2 year period, yeah.
Yeah, for a 2 year period. So I guess it is a short term and probably not going to be. And I guess we'll have a look at it again if it does progress later on involving the PLP, and that's more later at a later stage. But yeah, it is a short term 2 year agreement. But I'm supportive of it, seeing other businesses contributing back to the community. I think it's a great initiative, so I'm certainly in support of it.
Councillor Howard and then Councillor Green.
I'm really supportive of this. I think it's a great result, and congratulations to and Cricket Club as well, who will have some benefit in this. I think Revo, the name is, when I look at all the other names here, there's no Dunkin' Donut there, but there's Cooper's, Thomas Farms. I think Revo is just as good as it gets, I think, for what we've got happening. Look, I always try to find a downside to something, and I just don't see it here. I think the signage, they're the major sponsors. I mean, they can't be tiny, but I think there's some flexibility with what, as Councillor Nelson said, there could be some flexibility in where they come down and what goes up on what days. But yeah, overall, yeah, it's great.
Thank you. Councillor Green.
Just very briefly, Mayor, I don't think you can be half pregnant. And I say that because I think if we're going to agree to this, which I'm supportive of, we can't restrict signage around the oval. I think it's either the Revo Oval for game days or it's not. So I actually don't have so much of a problem around signage wherever it is. I think as long as it's done tastefully and professionally, I'm okay. I think the logo of Revo itself is probably the most exciting, engaging brand to look at. It's just 3 words with the same font. But I think, you know, if they want it on every gate, I think I'd want that too if I was a sponsor of an Oval. I think that goes part and parcel with it. So I'm supportive of that. I think the other thing I was just going to say, just for context more than anything else, is I did look at the other Ovals. I kind of don't care what the other Ovals do. I think we should make the decision purely on what's right for us and what's right for us now. And it could be in 2 years' time we're having a conversation about Dunkin' Donuts or OTR or something else, and I think we make that decision at that time on the basis of the information ahead in front of us. I don't think it's going to bump into PLP for lots of different reasons. So I think very, very supportive. I think it's great to put some money back into the local community, and I think the footy club should be commended that this is not just a deal for them, it's a deal for others as well. So I think that's quite collegiate of them, and congratulate them.
Any further discussion from the Eastern Wing?
I'll go on. Look, I looked at Adelaide Oval and Norwood Oval, and certainly less is more approach. I think that's certainly the thing that I'm very keen on, because obviously when there's a proliferation of advertising, it kind of gets lost in the noise, and considerations to the fact that it is a memorial grounds. So I think it's great that I think there's a one sponsor, and we're sort of the team sort of branding the Oval. But I think just a bit of sensitivity to the amount of signage facing memorial grounds, and I'm sure that will come through in the development approval process. So, supportive.
Councillor Stan.
I think we have a general consensus or general feeling in this chamber that we always help those that help themselves, and I commend the club for going out and finding this sponsorship money. So I don't think we can do anything else but help them along their journey.
Thank you. I don't see any need to sum up. Thanks for everyone's contribution. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item 10.5, annual community grants. Recommendations on page 237. Do I have a mover for this motion? Councillor Stan, would you like to speak to the motion?
Sorry, Mayor, can I just reiterate my conflict of interest on this one?
Yep. So
I think I have to do it again.
Sorry, yeah, yes. You do now, yeah.
General conflict of interest, however, I'll stay and participate and vote. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll speak to it. How wonderful that we have all these community groups active in our area. I note that there's quite a few over in the east, and I commend them for putting pen to paper or finger to PDF or whatever they did to apply for these grants. I do notice a couple I didn't notice that I had no idea existed, and I do apologise to the Adelaide Camera Club who meet in Australian Avenue there in the community hall. I also see they meet on the nights that we have workshops and council meetings, so unfortunately I'll never be able to go along to one of their meetings, which is quite sad. But yeah,
election soon.
Hey?
There's an election soon.
Yeah, I know. After then next year, I might have free time. I do. If they're watching or they're in the gallery, please reach out to me, and I'd love to be a part of the club somehow. But look, fantastic that we can help out these groups. I do know that these seemingly small amounts of money in our overall budget are incredibly important to these groups. You know, they might only have 3 zeros on the end, but it's probably it can do a lot for these clubs. So I commend the motion to you.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Deputy Mayor Wynne?
Yeah, definitely be happy to second this one. Yeah, and it's great to see so many community groups and taking advantage of this. A little bit sad that not everyone got what they wanted, and we missed out by I think 11,000 to fund the rest of them that were above the line. And just for the people that didn't get the approval, like if we can just provide feedback on what they could do better or what they could do to assist them in the next year's grants so that they can be supported. But yeah, great initiative, love it that we are able to support these groups in carrying out their activities and supporting them to be able to do that for the community. So
thank you. Any points that haven't been made already. Councillor Green, then Councillor Beck.
Just very briefly, $11,000. We had that in another budget item earlier tonight. We're confused. Anyway, I just wanted to ask a question actually about the Nailsworth Primary School, because I think the school's always really interesting in terms of schools being eligible or not being eligible, depending on whether it's part of the core curriculum or not. And I noticed that Prospect, I think it was Prospect, maybe another school, didn't get funded. However, Nailsworth did, and I without trying to answer my own question, kick my own goal, I presume it's because it's an outward focused activity at the school, and I want to make sure that that is genuinely an outward focused activity at the school. So my first question maybe to the Mayor is that the reason why they got funded and the other schools didn't? Because normally schools don't get funded through this process.
CEO, Ms. Veronia.
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, you're correct, Councillor Green. It's generally because it needs to have a community benefit that's wider than just the school itself. And really, in the guidelines, what we talk about is if it's a school or a state-funded entity, it needs to go above and beyond their core business. So I would say in the case of these two applications, the Nailsworth reconciliation and work around that made a strong case for the flow-on benefit to the wider community. And I think because they've also done quite a bit of work already in developing a RAP and other things. They're quite committed to that journey, so it was sort of demonstrated through the application, whereas the application for the podcasting program didn't really demonstrate broader community. Whilst we acknowledge it's a great program for the students and we think it's fantastic, it wasn't didn't have much of a sell around the broader community benefit that it would provide, and hence it wasn't high enough up on the list there.
Thank you. Certainly support the recommended organisations be funded. Probably just on that, I would, I'm not planning to right now, but it could be a conversation another time whether RAPs are considered core business for schools or not. I suspect it probably should be, or it is. But I think if they are doing some outward focused activity, it'd be good for council to promote that as well, because I think their project is a really good one. It'd be great to see some members of the community outside the school community going along to the flag raising ceremony or anything else. So thank you for the hard work that goes in behind trying to make decisions on these. And even though we have missed out by 11,000, I think maybe some of those would have been funded even if we had the cash anyway. So I think the right decision was made.
Thank you. Councillor Becker.
Yeah, I always wish we had more funding for this. We just talked about $170,000 for lights and things, which are always expensive. But what a great opportunity! We do have a sort of donations and gifts policy. If people wanted to contribute to their community, to channel some of their funds into this fund, if there's some worthy projects that are going ready, I'm sure there's members within our community or businesses within our community that could help facilitate that. So I'll certainly letting my networks know of maybe the ones that weren't successful, because I think these are very worthy projects, and council's one way, but there's certainly other people.
Any further discussion, or else I'll head back to Councillor Sam to sum up.
Yeah, we'll sum up. The one thing I've read through each and every one of them here, and the one word that I did note that keeps popping up is community. And each one of these is propping up our community, encouraging our community, supporting our community, and encouraging our community. So I commend this to you. It's, as I said, a small amount of money that goes a long, long way. And I commend this motion to you.
Thank you. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item 10.6, Draft Disability Access and Inclusion Plan for Consultation, page 252, the recommendation. Do I have a mover for this motion? Councillor Hollop, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I'm actually in this group. They're a great group of participants there, and they're giving us some really valuable insight into what we need, the needs of the people that need to sort of move around our community, just things that we don't see. And it's really opened my eyes to a lot. And and I've actually lived with someone that's been disabled for many years, so we're always learning from them. The report itself, the draft itself, it really just is a roadmap that, with all these insights, that's been able to be developed to implement and guide us along the way, which I think is fantastic. Yeah, so supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Hollop. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Barnett, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I was on the when we originally set this up, and I think it's wonderful for such a diverse group of people. They have a lot of, as a group, they have a lot of information and a lot of ideas and a lot of experience, which I think stands us in good stead. You know, they're just a lot of all the feedback that comes back. You know, like so one, you know, prime example like at Prospect Oval with the mounds and the lack of disability access, even though, you know, council has tried to do things, but I mean, heart goes out when, you know, one of them that's wheelchair bound and can't get from the down, stands there and looks at the disability toilet that we have on the Wilcox side, and there's just a row of all steps. You have to go out and right around and all that just to go to the toilet. So I think with our people who are perhaps a little bit against the Prospect Lifestyle Precinct, just think how you would feel if that was you or a member of your family, you know. So these are the things that we're trying to do. So I'd just say hats off to them and to our staff and to other elected members that are involved on that.
Any further discussion, any points that haven't been made? Otherwise, I'll head back to Councillor Holland to sum up, if you see the need to.
Not really, not much to say. I think everyone knows the benefits of this group, and I think it's something we require to just plan accordingly and move forward and do what we can for access and disability.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Yes, carried unanimously. Item 11, reports for information. We can resolve en bloc, so I will start by asking if anyone would like to pull out item 11.1. Anyone like to pull out item 11.2? Councillor Backer. Anyone like to pull out 11.3? Anyone like to pull out 11.4? So we are resolving 11.1, 11.3 and 11.4 on block. For that I need a mover and a seconder, and then we have no debate, and then we put it to the vote. So mover, Deputy Mayor, seconder, Councillor Group. We'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item 11.2, Councillor Backer, would you like to move this, or do you have questions?
I'll move and discuss it briefly.
Yep, over to you.
Yeah, so obviously part of the Audit and Risk Committee workshop, we had a meeting recently, and it was about strategic initiative overload. So in our enthusiasm to do all these wonderful things, certainly in our risk analysis, the internal analysis, it was looking at the capacity, I guess, of the team to be able to deliver things. And of course, we're putting in control measures for that, and we're looking to sort of review those risks. But I think it's just mindful for elected members that we're doing a lot, and as much as we fund it with dollars, we only have a certain amount of people there. I just think it's really important that that's also a risk to be aware of. So thanks to the audit and risk team, because it's a very important part of the work they do, and I certainly look carefully at what they're recommending and they're making decisions. So I encourage you to support the motion.
Thank you. Can I have a second? Deputy Mayor Trindwin.
Yes, I appreciate the report, and I do share the same thoughts as Councillor Tobacco, so it's great to bring that to our attention and for us to consider when making decisions for projects as well, and in fact it hasn't. But
Thank you. If there's no further discussion and if Councillor Backer doesn't see the need to sum up, then I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Okay, so we're up to general business and we have a little bit to get through here, so we'll keep things moving. 12.1, thank you Councillors De Backer, Barnett and Nelson for your reports and or briefings. Motions on notice. 12.2.1, parking enforcement around schools workshop. I'll move that one as I put it forward. Obviously noting part 4 as part of the ITP, there is on the ground traffic studies to take place. The concept behind this is quite different, and noting that Councillor Groot and myself discussed whether our motions should be combined or not, and ultimately we decided that they had to be separate focuses. So this is about really having a decent crack at solving what we would consider a wicked problem that's been with us for as long as I can remember. It seems to go around from school to school. If it's not a certain school that's having issues, it's a different school. So the intention behind this is to actually bring people together and have an open discussion, and we want to bring this problem to the attention of the two state members of Parliament, also the federal member Steve Georgianis, and we want to hear the views of a bit of a diverse group of people who've all got something of a vested interest here, and I don't think we've done that before, and I don't know whether it's going to be successful. I hope that we'll get some learnings out of it at the very least. But I want to give this a crack because we've all been talking about it for a long time. The ITP will give us some small wins in certain parts of the city, but to get the stakeholders together around the table to have an open and honest conversation, and then to let that lead us to a next set of actions which may drop out of that meeting, I think is a part of the process. We won't solve the problem on that day, but it might lead to further debate regarding policies combined with the motion that Councillor Groot has put forward. And I think this is what we do as a well-run council, is that we bring the stakeholders together, we have those conversations, we table the views and concerns, we connect people up, and then we move forward. So that's the intention of my motion. Councillor Groot's motion deals with the mechanics of looking at the data and informing us from that point of view. I like this idea, I hope you support it, and I'll call for a second. I think Councillor Nelson.
You have it all lined up. Look, I first read both these motions and I've gone, really? And then I read the CEO's comments and I've gone, really? And I've reread it and I've gone, this is probably one of the best motions that I've seen in the last 3 years. Certainly, I can't speak on behalf of my fine colleague next to me, but both as former chairs of Prospect Primary School, we begged for this to happen for years, and it never did. I'm more annoyed that I didn't think of the idea 3 years ago, but I think this is outstanding. If we can pull this off, I think it'll be amazing. The people you have delegated there to attend, things like parents and teachers and headmasters, everything else, they are the people who constantly say that we don't listen, that we're not doing anything. Well, this is their opportunity to stand up and be heard. So as much as I know there's a lot coming up with this and combination with Councillor Groot, I think this is an outstanding motion, and I can't speak highly enough about it.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. I had Councillor Hollett and then Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Main and then Councillor Groot.
I really like this motion. I think bringing a group of very varied individuals, from sort of principals to some parents to the MPs, people from the, connected to the various schools, I think we could just pick up a few little gems in here. The information that's swapped, that's sort of will fly around the room, I think will be very, give us, I think, a bit of information that can help us. That it could be we're able to do a few things immediately, things that don't necessarily cost much, that can be implemented, but we get that feedback from each other, and ideas will bounce off each other. I just think it's great. I think it's good getting people together in a forum, and I think we could get some valuable information from it. Highly support it.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Nguyen.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this to us. I mean, this issue is ongoing, not just in Prospect, in every council area, and it is very important for the safety of the community. And I remember early on in our term, we did meet. Councillor Nelson, you were there too. You know, with the police, like you organised that. So we had Lucy Hood, we had a member of the police department. So we have attempted this in the past with not much success. So doing this in a more formal style like this, hopefully there's some positive outcomes for the community. And I don't know, maybe having Lucy and the member of Adelaide can, you know, it's not going to just help like our area, council area, it might be something they might look into for the greater section. So yeah, definitely, thank you for bringing that to us, and I'll help.
Yes, first of all, I was sort of, you know, I support it generally, but I did have a bit of problem with the timing and the fact that we had our information that was gathered for our integrated transport plan. So, so in our ITP, that did gather a whole lot of collaboration, and council conducted consultation with the community and key stakeholders, including targeted consultation with all 6 schools located within the city to capture the concerns and opportunities related to the 5 modes of transport. And then concurrently we had the Prospect Primary School and Rosary one, which I think most probably came out of lots of years of frustration has been echoed by Councillor, the 2 councillors that were actually chairs of Prospect Primary School. So we've got that one, and that was undertaken by the Department of Education, and that initiated school precinct study. So that happened with the building that was happening with Rosary, you know, so there was all this sort of happening. So, and that's, I think the school the schools have received that. I'm looking at it now. So, and then in our integrated transport plan, it says that is envisaged that similar school precinct studies, as the one that's done with Prospect and Rosary Primary, will be undertaken for all other schools within the city of Prospect over the life of the ITP, which is 10 years. So I guess then I'm, you know, trying to pull this in together. So I guess it could be viewed that we might be able to put this up as a bit of a priority process within our integrated transport plan. Because if we're going to be looking, you know, at doing similar school precinct studies, well, that would then involve this very thing. So I guess my only thing was about the timing of this being in January next year, you know. So I guess we'll find out if this gets up, you know, what timing might best suit. Because just go back to, I don't suppose much has changed in teaching, but when I was a teacher, the end of January was a very busy time. You know, you used to have your school, the new school year talks, planning and all that stuff that goes on. Yeah, so it was just about that January thing. So anyway, I'll support it. See if we can pull those threads together with what's already happening.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Mayor. Great motion. I would agree with the Deputy Mayor that we have tried this in various forms before, and I know certainly, as Councillor Nelson mentioned, in my time as Governing Council Chair, we did bring together people. In fact, I think there's an existing motion that has been approved by this council to say that responsibilities for this issue lies primarily with the school, with SAPOL and with council. So I think this is great that we're picking this up as an issue. A couple of quick things. One is I wonder whether there should be someone from SAPOL and DIT Both of those are not represented there, and I think both have interests. And so I could move that as an amendment, but I'm sure you might take it as a variation.
Certainly have it as a variation.
Yeah, I just think that they're both really important to be part of this conversation. The second thing is I wonder, as staff are looking at the ITP over the next little while before that comes back to us, whether this could be flagged in there, because I think that this is actually, to Councillor Nelson's point, it's quite monumental. It's very, very important. So yeah, I'll make that as a comment more than anything else. And I think that the worst outcome we'll get with this, and I'm being really honest here, is for someone to suggest we have more walking buses, because that's the solution that kept getting thrown back to me in my time at Prospect Primary, as in the Governing Council, maybe Councillor Nelson's as well, was have more walking buses. That is not practical for parents. It's not going to solve the problem. And so I really think this has to be rooted in some really practical outcomes. Otherwise, you know, there's going to be another bunch of people sitting around the table talking about this in another 10 years. So really commend the motion, well done for putting it up. And just to reiterate that point, the Mayor and I did talk about whether the two motions go together, but we thought they should sit separately. And that's why you see two similar but different motions tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Beck.
Yeah, thanks for the variations, Councillor Green. Yeah, certainly I was be supportive of the motion, but I think you want it to be successful, and I think probably just a couple of things in regards to the time of year, and also will it be a smart meeting? I'd imagine there's a lot of people that will be away in Queensland, in Bali, with their parents-in-law. Is there going to be a capacity for people to dial in or be videoed? I think it's really important that hear that information. And the other thing is, I noticed in the ITP that the priority project is Prospect Primary. Now, irrespective of which school your child goes to, everyone thinks their school has the biggest problems. So I would hazard a guess that you might find, or you might need to justify why one school is being done straight away and some timelines for what's happening, because I think certainly people come back and say, well, we've had this problem for 10 years, we've told you about it for 10 years and nothing's still being done for another 5. So I know we've done a lot of work around Prospect, and I know the other ones are to come, so I'm very supportive of this, but I think we need to be prepared for some of those discussions.
Anybody else? If not, I'll sum up. So the time is quite deliberate for 2 reasons. One, we understood that any time up until Christmas would be useless. Let's head down, focus on the end of the year. So January was seen as a reasonable time. The critical thing about January is that there's enough space ahead of the state election, and we've deliberately invited both the members of Parliament along to be part of this conversation, because if we miss the opportunity to highlight what we're trying to do here, we might miss the opportunity to attract some funding from our colleagues on North Terrace. So that was the key point around timing. I discussed it with Lucy Hood in particular and asked if we have it in January, is that enough time for consideration to be given to election promises? And she said any later and there's no chance at all. And so that was one of the main reasons why we chose January as the time that we thought this was reasonable as well. So just to provide some commentary regarding the discussions around timing. So thank you for the comments, everybody. And yeah, I think the worst thing that could come out of this would be that the community see us having a red hot go at doing something, and that's what they expect of us. And so if we achieve that result as the barest minimum thing we achieve, I think we've developed some value. So a couple of variations there. I'm happy as the mover, Councillor Nelson as the seconder, happy to accept those variations. Thank you. Let's put that to vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item 12.2.2, recommendation on page 330, moved by Councillor Group.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the motion I noticed that I had foreshadowed, I think 2 meetings ago. Well, and the reason it's here in front of us is I've had a number of residents talk to me about the actions, and I don't want to characterise them as inappropriate because they're not. The actions of finding people near schools, particularly during drop-off and pick-up, and particularly when they're going to enter into a driveway or into a parking space. And I was trying to think through what's the problem we're trying to solve with this issue, particularly around schools, and I think the next motion will pick up some of this. But for me, it's actually trying to understand what is actually going on and where we expiate and where we educate. And I know a couple of years ago, maybe not this council, maybe the one before, we had lots of debate about that from a budget perspective, because obviously expiations bring in income, and that was a consideration in terms of whether we expiated or educated. And I don't think we've had that conversation more recently in the chamber about, do we want to educate people that they're doing the wrong thing, don't do it again, or do we want to actually expiate and take the income as a result of it? And I think our staff do what our policy settings tell them to do, so it's not I want to make it really clear, it's not any comment about our staff's activities, they're doing what they're meant to be doing. But my question is whether our policy setting is right for this. So in order to do that, I'm trying to understand, particularly around schools, around what that data looks like in terms of how many people are being expiated. Are we trying to crack a wall up with a sledgehammer, or is this actually a bigger issue than what we So it's quite straightforward. I'm really keen for this to come back to us, not noting the CEO's comments, but keen for this to come back to us as part of our budget setting conversations in March. And that's why I try to give that sort of almost 6 month period in terms of coming back to us in that date, because that will help us understand whether, from a policy perspective, we want to expiate or educate. I think in talking also to others, there was a real keenness in terms of trying to understand how many of these expiations are going to residents of the city of Prospect versus how many are going to people outside. I know that I don't know how much more challenging that makes the data mining exercise. I would have thought postcode data would be in fine data anyway, so that's probably relatively simple. But I think that's a really interesting thing as well. Are we finding our people here, or are we finding people from outside the area? So I commend it to you as almost an adjunct to the work that the Mayor has put up, but a different adjunct in terms of that policy setting around expiate and educate.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Sanders, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I'll second that. Happy to second this. I think any time that we can find out with data where we're going and where we've come from, I mean, you can't manage what you can't measure. It's one of the things I learned very, very early on. And believe it or not, one of the things that I get complaints across my meagre desk from residents is unfair expiations. I was only stopped for 30 seconds, we weren't even moving, we were waiting in a line, and the fight that these people then go on, the journey they go on, takes hours out of their day. And we quite often forget that when people are fighting these expiations, they are doing that in their own time, whereas all the correspondence and back and forth for council is part of someone's natural day. They're just doing it as a part of what they get paid to do. But the resident is taking time and effort out of their own lives and their own days and to fight this thing. So I absolutely think this is a wonderful journey to go on. I do take on board the CEO's comments that it will take a lot of time and effort out of staff to gather all the data. I often hear that there's an abundance of university students who are learning all this sort of thing that would be quite happy to come on and work on a live model and do a live project. So I don't know whether we could possibly reach out to, I mean, if it's just data mining, if it's just, to put on another word, just a bit of grunt work, if it's just actual, tedious work, surely we could, put that out to, farm that out to a willing third party at a fraction of the cost, or even nil. I'd love to see the end of the journey of this. If it changes our policy, if it means that we don't expiate and we lose a bit of money, so be it. Maybe we shouldn't have been doing that in the first place. It would just change our focus a little bit. But it is, as I said, one of the things that I get back from residents was I was only waiting in a line. I really wasn't doing anything. I was just turning into the school. I was just doing this. So I have no idea. Maybe you were, but let's find out. So I commend Councillor Groot's motion.
Thank you. Any further discussion and points that haven't been raised already, Deputy Mayor, and then Councillor Barnett.
Yes, thank you for bringing this one, Councillor Guru. This is something that I get complaints about all the time, and not just around school areas, it's everywhere. And when I've read this, don't just book him, teach him, I see that as a problem, and you know that we need to educate. But I also see the problem of, you know, these people are coming to pick up their kids from school, so there's an issue with the process, not so much the expiration. I feel like the time that we're going to be spending just to compile the data, I feel like we can see the issue, and I think this goes back to your motion, Mayor, getting the school together and getting the council together to figure out what better way or what better process that we can do, like a better system for picking up, because so people are getting expedited for waiting on a yellow line when they're picking up school, but it's the convenience, and I pick up my nephews and nieces from school too. So like if there's a queue, I see people waiting and that's where they're getting expedited. But realistically, is it convenient for them to drive down, go around to come back again? You know, so what my sister tells me to do is go later when there's no one around. So you know, finding other ways to do it. But I see this as a technical issue. So I feel like if we can have that workshop with you know, all the stakeholders, if there's a better way that we could manage this traffic, and what are parents expected to do when they are waiting in line. So I don't know, I just feel like, yeah, like if we can look at ways to counteract the issue rather than focusing on the fine part. Like for me, I see a problem and there needs to be a resolution. So that's how I see it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Barnett.
Yes, I've got mixed feelings about this because part of me says, why should expiation notices for driving and parking offences near schools be treated any differently to elsewhere in our city? It's ultimately the responsibility of individuals to comply with the law. And so that's part, you know, of where I'm coming from. Again, there's been a lot of work done in our integrated transport plan. Then we're looking to do the workshop with everybody. And from Council's website, our community standards team participates in road safety education program for schools, including the state government Safe Routes to School program. Many schools within Prospect have undergone specialised traffic management assessments, and council has implemented changes to improve child safety around the schools. So that includes installation of EMU crossings, better parking arrangements for parents, the drop-off and pick-up zones, new line marking, clearer and more parking signage. We've got 6 schools within our city, all of which have either a no stopping area or an area with parking restrictions during school hours in the interest of safety. And I've talked to one school principal, and they're just about literally tearing their hair out of the actions of certain people that come to pick children up. It's very reckless behaviour. So, I mean, part of why we have road safety and expiation notices and all that is for safety. And we do need that as schools. So I don't know how you educate against stupidity, basically. Yeah. So I'll wait to hear the Councillor Lillian and summing up before I make my own.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Councillor Holland.
I'm going to go against the grain here with most people. There are a few aspects to it. Look, I'll start off with the risk of work overload for council, and that was raised. And Councillor Nelson also said he looked at points, 12.1 downwards, and he just thought, wow, where do you put the priority here? I mean, it's a good it's a good motion, but I think, you know, I voted for Mayor Larwood's because I think that incorporates a lot more aspects around schools, and like this parking one that Councillor Groot brings up too is, you know, mainly concentrates on traffic infringements around the schools. I think, you know, I just think that there's a lot of frustration around the schools. People are doing the wrong thing. They know they're doing the wrong thing. We can give them data. A lot of work involved in getting that data. Look, I think at the moment it's, you know, because of the workload involved, there's a lot of discussion. It's not a simple thing. I don't think we'll get, apart from trying out some education after a lot of work, I don't think we're going to get immediate results, and I think we should be concentrating on safety more than parking. The safety aspect around parking is, well, we've got parking inspectors. The education side, I think because of the workload mainly, we really need to, you know, perhaps it can be something that comes up later down the track, but we're just putting too much work on the council at the moment. I think there is a risk of burnout there, and that's been identified, and we just don't, I don't think it's a priority at the moment. That's
Thank you.
basically it.
Thank you, Councillor Hollett. Councillor De Backer.
I've heard the discussions, but a bit like Councillor Hollett, it's about safety. This is schools. This is all wonderful until someone gets, little kid gets knocked over, and it's found that we haven't been expiating poor behaviour or illegal behaviour. And thank you, Councillor Barnett, for detailing what we're already doing. So I think a lot of what we're asking for in here we're already doing. But I think specifically to, I think it's 2.C, which is about data. That could be done through the portal, because similar to Wilcox and Richmond and things like that, with us, we like to see data. It helps us make decisions. And sometimes these are by way of spreadsheets. They don't have, as long as they're anonymised, I think, you know, we can have a look at it. But it certainly helps us sort of see what kind of things are happening near our schools. I mean, if people are double parking or they're doing 3-point turns where they shouldn't be, I'd certainly be expiating. And we maybe if, again, by the portal, the staff can communicate the existing policy, and then these are quite often operational spreadsheet or operational flow charts that we don't see. So I'd like to see some of the information, but again, I'm not inclined to support the motion at this stage, but I'm interested to hear the summing up.
Thank you. Councillor Nelson.
I've been torn with this one. Normally, I get my motions here and I write all my notes. This one I've got 0 notes because I read it and I'm like, what do I do with this one? And I think it's mainly because I don't think this motion has enough flesh on it. That's just for me. This is all about tell me this and tell me that. A question I might have: do we actually do we note when, or do the general inspectors make a note, make a report when they're giving out education, when they're giving warnings out?
CEO, Mr. McCluskey.
Through the chair, I might ask a clarifying question. Can we say taking a note, is that about us recording that data or about giving a note to a person?
No, so I've been told that we don't document the warnings after I had this. So if somebody's there, for instance, I'll go back to maybe 3 years ago, if I can give a short example. I was parked on Braun Road, didn't realise you can't park within 3 metres of a solid white line. One of our fine inspectors was walking past my car, I was going to get back into it, and he sort of said to me, look, you can't do that, I'm not going to give you a ticket at this stage. But he took no notes, no names, no warnings, no nothing. There was no documentation of a warning being given. So the reason for my question is if we're looking at asking about what the difference is between expiation and education, do we have that data? My guess is no, we don't.
Mr. McCluskey.
Through the chair, thank you for the clarification. The data set is imperfect, but there is some data available on that. The team, as you know, have body cameras recording their actions, and they do review their patrols and capture data at the end of patrols to allow them to keep moving, for lack of a better term. But as an example, if a warning were given, a driver did not follow that warning and continued to disobey the road rule and they receive an expiation, we don't make duplicate records. So one of the time-sensitive components of reviewing this will be manually reviewing those and pulling those out. So imperfect data set.
So I guess my point for that is any data that we did get for point 2 is going to be inaccurate, which is my concern. So we're going to have the staff go through and do all this data analysis, which I love. I love data, I love numbers, but it's not going to be accurate. We're not going to have the proper data set. So I think for me, if this was a motion that read, we want to have a workshop to rework the expiation or the parking policy, the policy itself, I would support that 100% because I think we do need to refresh that and say when do we educate, when do we expiate. But if I think about all the times where I get contacted by residents, 50% is complaining about our parking inspectors and 50% is commending our parking inspectors, saying they were great, they came out, they helped me, we've got this car to move on and everything else. So I get a lot of feedback, positive and negative. But I think the way this is, I think there is a lot of work, and I'm not going to go to Councillor Hollett's extension to say there's too much work for the staff because Chris can do it. But I think this is a lot of work involved where we're not going to get accurate data. And I don't want this council staff to go through and do all of this work when the data is just not going to be accurate and I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel of what this is trying to achieve. I'd rather this was a motion that said, yeah, I want to have a workshop to review the policy and we leave it at that. So at the moment, I can't support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. I think that's everyone. So heading back to Councillor Green for a stirring motivated.
I'm not sure I'll get it over the line. But I would point out to Councillor Nelson that dot 1, review the current policy settings. So this is about reviewing the policy.
Yeah,
and it's about, hang on, dot 4. But it's also about reviewing the policy in the context of the budget. Because if we made a decision to expiate more or less, it does have a material budget impact on our budget. So a couple of things I just want to say though. First of all was this is not just about schools, and you'll see there in particular the review should, it's not exclusively about schools. So for example, a story came to me about a woman who was fined on Prospect Road outside of Coles during a clearway time. Now normally you say, well, that's your bad luck, and I have no sympathy for people blocking bike lanes during clearway time. But her son was near a swarm of bees and he was allergic to bees, and she was trying to get him in the car and get him away from that situation, and she got fined for it. And so those sort of examples for me, I would think, oh, okay, let's understand why you're doing that and would educate. You really shouldn't do it, but we understand it's an emergency. So I think it goes beyond just the school issue. It also goes to any place in our city. I think the school pickup issues that Councillor Barnett raised, this is a problem that's going to exist well beyond us. We're going to have 100 parents picking kids up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, dropping them off between 8 and 8:30 in the morning. That's what happens at every school across the state. We just happen to have the added disadvantage of having very narrow streets on that. So to sort of say, well, people shouldn't go pick up their kids at 3 or that people shouldn't drop their kids up at 8:30 is impractical. Absolutely impractical. I've been there. I've done, my children now walk to school, which is a blessing, but I've been there where I've been in lines and having to go around the block to try and get them dropped off. So I don't think we can just put our head in the sand and say they shouldn't do it because that's just not realistic and it's not what's going to happen around schools. I think to Councillor Standon's point, in order for us to make decisions, we often complain and moan and groan in this chamber that we make policy on the fly. This is an opportunity for us not to make policy on the fly, but actually have some data. And I can't disagree with the CEO's comments around resourcing because I just don't know that level of detail. But in my mind, there is a database which has all the fine data in it, and we have capacity to use AI to actually tell us certainly some of the fine data. And I think in terms of what we've heard from Mr McCluskey in terms of the warning, so that might not be perfect, and I'm quite comfortable if that doesn't come back to us and that's not a perfect data set. But I think it's pretty easy for us to understand who's been fined and how much they've been, well, not how much they've been fined, but who's been fined and the volume of fines over a period of time on a data set that exists without having to stop people doing other work within council. And I'm a little concerned that we're hearing a lot of this around pressure in council staff. We hear that in the CEO's update today. We hear that in other times around the council chambers. So we need to think about reprioritising. If you choose not for this to be a priority, that's okay. But we also have to have that conversation with things like the motion that's coming up in a minute around consultation about the PLP. So we're putting pressure on ourselves. So I think it's unfair to say we don't have capacity when some of this, and I think data, as I think traffic and I think expiations is bread and butter to council. And for me, this is not about saying we shouldn't expiate people, absolutely not. And so if you are stopping a bike lane to put a letter in the post box, or you're popping into Coles to get some milk, and you park during, from whatever it is, 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock on Prospect Road, you deserve to get a fine. I would be the first one to say that. But I think for me, it's about trying to understand the policy settings between educating and expiating and how we manage that going forward and how that has an impact on the budget. So I'm comfortable that the data won't be perfect. I'm comfortable that we may not even be able to get all of the data. But for me, going back to Councillor Nelson's point, this is around having information to inform a policy review, and the dot point 3 there says the policy is considered a workshop. Sorry, the policy be considered a workshop before being presented to council. So that is around a policy review. So that's the meat on the bones. This is about a policy review, but it's about a policy review that's informed by data, not informed because we hear from some people that like park inspectors and some that don't. I think that's a false way of doing this piece of work. So that's my plea to you all. But we live in a democracy, and I'll accept the umpire's decision.
Can we take it in parts, please?
Happy to do so. Thank you for that summary. Let's put that to the vote. So first of all, part 1, all those in favour? Against? Motion carried.
Division.
So in favour, against stands? Oh, around, yes.
Sorry. Well, you've been going for a long time.
We need to see the stretch.
Nice try, Councillor Green.
There's a reason to change the rules, so I want to change it back again.
Okay, please be seated.
Trim was 4.
So it was Councillor Hollett and Councillor Barnett were against, and everybody else was in favour of.
Deputy Mayor. She was 4. Yeah.
Part 2, all those in favour? Against? Motion lost.
Division.
In favour, stand please.
As I said before, maintain the roads.
Part 3, all those in favour? Against? Motion carried.
Division.
Standing.
It'd be fun to look at the policy with no data.
Oh, I think we should be looking at the policy. I've never said so. I think it's good.
Thank you for that robust debate. We'll keep things moving along. Item 12.2.3, Councillor Group, again, recommendations on page 332. Over to you, Councillor Group.
This one might be easier, it might be harder, I'm not sure. So look, this is quite straightforward.
Just clarifying my conflict, but I'll stay in the debate, but I won't vote.
Sorry, yep, noted.
This one's quite straightforward, and it's come to me by a couple of residents over the last probably 2 years who have had infrastructure damaged by street trees, either by roots or by branches. And my standard line has always been, which I was taught very, very early on in my council life, to put an insurance claim in, and the process will take care of itself. Now, I raised this a couple of meetings ago, and we heard.
Just pause for a quick sec. So, Councillor Backer, just confirming that if you're staying, then you have to vote. So, if you don't want to vote, then you can shoot. Just give that a minute. Sorry, Councillor Group.
We heard at a council meeting I think 2 meetings ago, that staff at the time had advised us that they weren't aware of any successful insurance claims as a result of street tree damage to a person's property. And I just found that a little bit odd that our process allows people to go through a process of making an insurance claim to our third-party insurer, or a mutual liability insurer, and no one has been successful, which kind of means that the process does not support residents or businesses for that matter. I've broadened it to residents and businesses, where street trees which are owned by the City of Prospect make some sort of damage to the property in some way. So it kind of got me thinking about, well, again, what do we do about that? Don't know what to do about it until we have the data around it. So this is effectively seeking a report to a future council meeting. Again, I'm giving, I think, reasonable notice to March next year. Just to give us a summary of what our liability is. Now, I think we kind of know that, but I think it'd be useful for the public to have that in writing as part of a council report. Trying to understand, again, what's the extent of the problems around this. So have we received 3 complaints in the last 5 years, in which case it's probably not a big deal, or have we received 300? I just don't know. Also then breaking that down to a number of insurance claims, number of civil claims that have been lodged, and options for residents and businesses. What do we tell people when they've got a tree root that's actually lifted their front fence, their front masonry fence, and they have a big crack in it? Do we just say, I'm sorry, that's bad luck, you have to fix it? Or is there some other process we can utilise to support residents in that way? So I'm hoping this doesn't provide the data challenges as the previous motion did. I think as we continue with the Green Tunnel, we continue planting more and more trees each year. This will continue to be an issue that we need to deal with. And again, I just want to get on top of it from a data perspective to understand what we're dealing with, and then we can make some decisions beyond that.
Thank you, Councillor Bird. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Stanton, over to you.
Firstly, I must say that I'm impressed by Councillor Groot's titling of his motions. I forgot to say it in the last motion, but it's refreshing to see someone put effort into titling the motions. I didn't know that you can creatively title them, and now I know.
I didn't think they were going to be accepted, but they were.
Yeah, and yes, challenge accepted. I'll never boringly title my motions in the future. I support this. I think anything that we can do to create parity and procedural fairness in between residents and councillors is a good thing.
Thank you, Councillor Stanton. Any points that haven't already been raised? Councillor Barnett and then Councillor Nelson.
Yes, keeping in mind the CEO's comments and the more work that we've already given them tonight. So I think it would be more logical to me to actually, first of all, before we go and do all this, gathering and there's all case law study and Lord knows what else, to invite the local government risk services, that was council's insurer, to actually deliver a workshop. This is on page 332. To deliver a workshop to us on the topic, and then we might then have some proper basis on which to be able to make decisions and have some proper information about, well, are we going to be again wasting council's time and money and staff time in going through collecting all that information when we might find out that again, well, let's have the workshop with the insurer and find out before we go and do all this. So I would be voting against this and would be, for shadowing, to move a motion without notice to invite the local government risk services as council insurer to deliver a workshop, etc., etc.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Councillor Nelson.
Amazingly, Councillor Barnett's just taken the words out of my mouth. That's pretty much what I had written down here. I commend the Councillor Green on his motion. It is a constant battle that we have with residents sort of saying, oh, this tree's over my yard, or it's broken, crashed my car and everything else, and I've got no recourse. So we do understand, and I had no idea before I joined council what the impacts were. But I do kind of see, as it stands, this body of work is kind of a waste of time because we understand that council has no liability. There's no limits, there's no issues there with that. It's just, if it happens, it's bad luck. Claim it on your own insurance and whatnot. So, to agree with Councillor Barnett and the CEO that we are protected from any liability, the council is protected terms of damage, and I think having a workshop or a training session by the LGRS would make more sense before we go down the track of enabling this. If we do have the workshop, then I think maybe I'd leave for Councillor Group to bring back the motion if some of the information out of there was pertinent to the information made claims, or that there could claims be made, or we could re-educate. But I think based on the information we have, even just a brief read of the LGRS on the weekend, a lot of this work here would be kind of wasted because there's no liability in council for broken limbs or damaged trees or anything else. So I would kind of urge Councillor Group to maybe Councillor Barnett has a better point in putting through a motion without notice to invite the LGRS in, unless Councillor Group would like to make that as an amendment as part of his motion to request a workshop and then make part 1 and part 2 subject to the conclusion of that workshop.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Before we progress that concept any further, is there any other points that haven't been covered that people would like to raise? Does any one of them mind to put forward an amendment, a variation to the motion?
Well, I don't know whether I don't know if it's variation or an amendment.
Point of order, Councillor's already spoken.
Yeah, I think we missed the vote on that one, but there is the opportunity for a motion without notice.
Correction, sorry, the Mayor was looking at me and he was asking me. I didn't start talking without.
Well, I happened to be looking at you, but I wasn't seeking a comment. But I take your point about a motion without notice, Councillor Barnett, and there's the opportunity later on in the agenda 12.4, so absolutely keep that one in mind. I think I had Deputy Mayor Tridden Wind first of all.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Group. This was interesting, and I can see why you brought it up. But I do agree, Councillor Bowden and Councillor Nelson, that if we could have a workshop and get given the information before we go down this route. So I'm happy to move an amendment. Is that what you thought?
I would consider it to be
and separate. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we might leave it as a motion without notice. Councillor Barnett's already foreshadowed. So thank you, Councillor Deputy Mayor Trin. Councillor Holt.
I was actually going to do the same. So yes, I can't vote for that. Pretty much for the same reasons that have been raised by others that don't really support it. But I would welcome the LGA coming here and giving us a sort of a talk and just give us that bit more information on the legal side and avenues that those affected might take, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Holt. I'll just make a little bit of a comment from the chair. I think if we remember what Councillor Groot said, we don't know how much of a problem this is without understanding the velocity and the frequency of claims. It seems that the LGRS would have most of this data. They wouldn't have, as the CEO has mentioned, the complaints data. And what's going through my mind is a little bit of a broader thing, and that is that it might just be a coincidence, but 2 motions in a row haven't been supported because the concept of getting the data is too difficult. And I think that in an organisation such as ours, stretched as we are, there's clearly a piece of work to be done over a period of time to ensure that we are capturing data even if we don't need it, such that when we do need it, we've got it. So that's a broader comment, and it's unfortunate that's roadblocked a couple of these motions, which I think are otherwise quite worthy. It looks like things aren't going to go your way, Councillor Group, but maybe a stirring summary might change the minds.
We'll talk about cloth nappies and have more luck. I think there's a perverse logic in bringing our insurers in because they're not going to answer the questions which I really want to know, which is B, C, D. They're the ones that are most critical. Now, if they can answer it, I'll also support a foreshadowed motion around that. But if they can't answer our data questions, then I think we're filling up a work shop space for very little purpose. Because I agree, we do know the answer is that we have no liability, but the question goes well beyond that. I think, and the Mayor made the point that I was going to make, I'm really concerned if it's that hard that we need to take people offline for a week or 2 weeks at a time to get, I think, simple operational data to elected members, then we've got a broader problem that we need to maybe address through a budget process. Because I just find it extraordinary that somebody can't tell me. Director 2 meetings ago gave us anecdotal data about this. I'm just trying to formalise what we were told in the chamber. If we can't simply get how many complaints we've got, how many insurance claims have been lodged, and how many civil claims have been lodged in a really simple way in a small council of 10,000 properties and 8 square kilometres, then there is something seriously wrong with our capacity to maintain our data. And I say that respectfully, but this, I think, should be a very, very simple thing to do. I don't accept it's going to take that long unless our data systems are so far out of whack. Then I think we as an elected member group have to understand what that is and seek to rectify it. So I accept that I probably won't get the numbers on the floor tonight. I will support a motion if Section 2 can be dealt with by the insurers. If not, I don't need to sit through a workshop in my precious time for 45 minutes to tell us what I think we already know. So while I certainly commend the motion to you, I don't think it will get up. I will call division on the 2 motions just to preempt that as well, because I think there are some residents really hurting by the fact that our street trees are causing damage. The advice we're giving them is to go through an insurance pathway which has a dead end for them. And I think we need to change our methodology in terms of how we deal with residents if that's the case. What I don't know is whether that is what that number that is from a resident point of view. And again, I go back to a simple data request that we should understand, that we should know that easily.
Thank you, Councillor Groot. Let's cross our fingers and put that to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Motion lost.
Space.
The division, if you voted in favour, please stand. Okay, moving right along. 12.2.4, notice of motion.
It doesn't work.
This one, Gavel. Councillor Nelson, recommendations on page 334. Over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. We've got Councillor DeBacker back.
Oh, sorry.
No, I just realised after I said it. Has Councillor DeBacker returned? That sounds good, doesn't it?
Is that the back?
Okay, resume. Councillor Nelson.
So there's a lot in that motion. I think most of it's very easily explained, but I just want to bring up a couple of basic points, and the fact that this motion is obviously to initiate a partnership between City of Prospect and Crime Stoppers SA, and they're a well-established and trusted organisation focused on crime prevention, public safety, and especially community education. Following my recent meetings with the CEO, Nigel Smart, it's clear that partnership could provide meaningful value to our city, and Crime Stoppers is already working with other councils such as Walkerville. And I believe that a similar approach would enhance their own efforts in keeping the community informed, confident and engaged. So after the last workshop, I met again with the CEO, and this proposal includes targeted local campaigns, community pop-ups, a presence at local events, safety forums, co-branded communications, and a boost to public awareness. It would also allow us to leverage Crime Stoppers brand tools and reporting, ensure that our residents feel empowered to report concerns and stay safe. So while there's currently, while this is not currently included in our current budget, there's the $10,000 investment in the reach and community benefit that we'll receive. This will also be treated as a new expenditure item under VR2. So also happy to report just this morning, Mr. Smart called me, just asked on the progression, and did inform me that SAPOL has already agreed to support a geofence campaign in the Prospect area with messaging that involves highlighting theft from motor vehicles, which is the current biggest crime in our area. and he'll also share ideas about preventive action that residents can take. So I want to thank all the councillors, all the elected members for their participation in the workshop that we had a couple of weeks ago. I think we all got value out of that, and I commend this motion to the floor.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Do I have a seconder? Yes, I have a seconder. Look, I'll second it to get it on the table for further discussion. It's obviously a valuable service. I think otherwise the organisation wouldn't exist. Do we have a significant issue that we need to address, and this can mitigate what's happening in our community? It's hard to tell. I'm not sure. Again, maybe the question around available data is coming into play here, and that's probably the only point I wanted to make. But yeah, get it on the floor, get some discussion, then we'll put it to vote. So I'll have to second it. Any further points to raise, Councillor Barnett?
Yes. You know, while I think it, you know, sort of worthy, but again, where I like to foreshadow another amendment that I would prefer to go down the track, and instead of just going out and forking out $10,000, which I really, Councillor Jason might have more of an idea what it's all about, but I certainly don't. I haven't met with the CEO of Crime Stoppers, so I don't really know what we're getting for our $10,000. So I would like to rather foreshadow an amendment that a proposal regarding a partnership with Crime Stoppers SA and the City of Prospect be referred to Council's Budget Review 2 for funding consideration. I could put in with with a report. I assume that would come with a report, but I better put it in. So that's where I'm coming from.
So you're foreshadowing, or you'd like to put forward an amendment?
Well, I sort of get a bit confused because what I'm suggesting, referring it to the Budget Review 2, is how does that fit in with the current proposal?
Yeah. So it's it does substantially change the context of the motion, because this is saying bang go, and you're suggesting that whilst you agree it's a good idea, you would prefer to refer it to be part of the BR2 process and not be approving the budget right now. And if it was successful as part of the BR2 process, then it's adopted and we move on.
Yes, I think it's just, I think we can't, you know, it's 10,000 here, it's 10,000 there, it's all the rest of it. And I don't want to come to Budget Review 2 and find that, well, you know, sorry, because of all these motions coming about spending money, that, you know, we then can't do it. So I'm in favour of having the partnership, but I just want to, you know, be a bit prudent about it. All right.
I'm happy to take that as an amendment.
Yeah.
So we'll just work on some wording. And then just a reminder, the process is that we have someone moving an amendment, we have the second for the amendment, we're going to vote on adopting the amendment. If it's adopted, then that's the motion that we're on. Okay, so we can then just do vote on this. And it is voted down. Okay, so slight change of tack. It so substantially changes the meaning of the motion that we won't go down that path. We'll vote on the motion, and then if the motion is carried, the motion is carried. If the motion is lost, then you'd be welcome to put forward a motion without notice based around the concept of it being subject to review as part of BRT. It's okay? All right, so if there's any further discussion, now's your time to shine. Otherwise, Councillor Backer and Councillor Green.
Yeah, look, I was at the presentation with the CEO of the organisation, I was about to say David would watch, but no, sorry, and Mr. Smart's a very affable fellow, and you know, I think one of the things we've got to be careful of is this, what it is and what it's not. So, for example, I'm sure Mr. Smart's not going to come down at 11 o'clock at night when things are, you know, kicking off down there. This is actually a digital, it's a communications exercise, and I guess one of the great things I saw in the report was that we don't have a budget line for security measures. So it's a great thing because it shows that we have a really safe community. But one of the bad things is that we don't have a budget line for sort of community safety measures. So I'm going to ask a question through the Mayor to the CEO, just in regards to if we had a huge risk, I'm assuming that the CEO has the ability to get resources if we need to get a security card down there. Would that already happen?
CEO, we've already put some measures in place, which is after hours monitoring.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I have a prerogative to act in the best interest of council to deploy resources where urgent circumstances require it, and from time to time, very occasionally, I will do that. I have done that with the current situation that exists at Ovingham. However, I am keenly aware of the fact that those matters, if they get beyond a certain level, really require council consideration fairly quickly. So we have a sort of a threshold consideration there that really depends upon, it's a discretionary issue at the time, but I'll sort of think to whether I feel there might be genuine dissent across the council to what I'm doing, or any real concerns over the level of expenditure matched against the community safety impact and the time involved. But obviously they'll come to BR as well at the time. Ms Taylor, can you speak any further to that in relation in particular to the Ovingham issue?
Through the chair, I think you covered most of it. We have also, I guess, included when there's a threat down at the customer service desk with additional security at particular community meetings, that kind of thing. So we've certainly put that in play already. I think the only thing particularly, because we have been highlighting the Crime Stoppers phone number and contact and process throughout the Ovingham, particularly just using Ovingham as an example at the moment. So, but yeah.
To give you a sense, Councillor, there's only 2 times in the 4 years I've been CEO that I've had to do that. And Ovingham is the second of those 2.
So thank you for that. So that's reassuring that happens anyway, and I think the operational measures is to us. And I guess it was very interesting as well, the director just mentioning that without the agreement, people can contact Crime Stoppers anyway. So this is I suppose it's a we articulated and summing up how this is a closer working relationship, I guess. So look, I'm here to keen to hear others' thoughts, but I'm certainly interested in all the operational aspects of actually having security on the ground.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Councillor Green.
Thank you. So I'm at a distinct disadvantage because I wasn't at the workshop, and I think this probably these sort of occasions makes me reflect on the fact that we don't do these workshops anymore. So as an elected member who's not at the workshop, you miss out on what the conversation that was happening. So I'm not across what Nigel presented and what he can bring to the City of Prospect. As I look at the motion, it's actually a cost of $20,000 we're effectively committing to. It's a 2-year agreement, albeit with a review after 12 months. But it's actually, it would be unlikely the commitment would go over that 12-month period, so it's really $20,000 we're looking for. I just look at the note under the rationale talks about Crime Stoppers promoting safety, preventing crime, and encouraging community awareness of suspicious behaviour. To me, that's SAPOL's role. And I'm not saying they're not doing that, but that's primarily, I thought, would be a role for SAPOL. Because as I understand it, Crime Stoppers are not responders, they're not a security organisation. They are a community-based, not-for-profit, I think it talks about that, who do those 5 dot points we talked about there. The other thing I didn't see in here was an evaluation. It does talk about reporting on outcomes and engagement levels, but it doesn't talk about has it worked and has it improved our crime stats or not. Again, I don't know what our crime stats are in order to know whether it's a problem or not. That's another data question, I won't go back there. But I think financially it's immaterial, it's not a big amount of money, I think we can manage that. I just don't kind of get what they do and how it's going to work for us. And I take full responsibility for not being at that workshop, but without that information, I'm finding it hard to support.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Stanton.
I'm in the same boat. I also was unavailable for that workshop and really don't know the details of what it's about.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'll head back to Councillor Nelson for a stirring motivational summary.
Motivational?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll do my best. Yeah, look, it is unfortunate we didn't have everybody there at the workshop. The presentation that Nigel did was exceptional, I thought. And it really laid out the groundwork of their deliverables with Town of Walkerville, the success they've had with Walkerville, the campaigns they've run, and the increase in reporting that they've actually seen. So I think there's been some very, very good deliverables that they've had in the short time with Walkerville. Obviously, we do have in there, just for Councillor Barnett's points, we do have in there what the agreement would look like, and there's obviously the enhanced public education, and that's really what Crime Stoppers are for. They're about putting the education, the geofencing is probably the main thing, but those at the workshop, the geofencing they're looking at doing now with SAPOL is the fact that there is an increase in crime from motor vehicles or theft from motor vehicles, so they do a geofenced campaign based on all the social media, alerting the residents that that's happening in the area and what they can do to stop it from happening to them. So it's more about the education, it's more about that allowing them to report things and them knowing that it's going to be anonymous. The biggest feedback that we had from Nigel is that people don't report crimes because they don't believe anything's going to happen and they don't want to put their names to reports. Crime Stoppers alleviates that by allowing anonymous reports and having, I don't have the data here, but it was something about a 90% success rate in passing on information. So, look, by the sounds of things, because we didn't have that many people here at the workshop, I think that would be a shame, because I think our city needs this sort of education. It needs the support. As I say, we've seen just in the last few months the exponential results they're getting from the town of Walkerville with their partnership. And I think with the increase in theft from motor vehicles, the copper theft that we discussed in length at the workshop, and the major behaviour, more education, more assistance is necessary. So hopefully it gets up, but I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion passed. Item 12.2.5, notice of motion regarding extending consultation period. Recommendation, well, the motion is on page 336, I believe. Councillor Backer, this is yours. So,
yes. And so thank you for putting the motion. I looked back at the earlier consultation we did, and the Mayor had done a similar extension request, and I think just in light of, and just putting it out there, I'm not on social media, however I know that there's lots of talk out there, and that's great, but one of the great things that the comms team have done in this round of consultation is we've kind of done not say the big branding, but we've done some banners, and I know we've done some myth busting and things like that. And I just thought it would be really good to extend the period of time. So I've attended all 3 of the in-person drop-in sessions. I know Councillor Stan and Councillor Hollett, I think Councillor Barnett, anyone else I've forgotten. It wasn't compulsory for elected members to be there, but it was really good that we were there. And certainly as elected members, we learned some things too. We did get you know, obviously people that have been in the consultation process before, but we also got some people from, you know, that didn't have anything to do with the first phase and, you know, involved with the North Adelaide Football Club, or they had, you know, they walked their dog in the area and that kind of thing. So it's good to see some different, you know, points of view. I guess the extending the 2 weeks will just allow a bit of take from that, you know, different approach, and also. Mayor wasn't in attendance at those drop-in sessions, and I think certainly, you know, being a spokesperson for council, if anyone has questions or concerns, it gives them an opportunity to talk to the mayor directly, and I think that's a really a good opportunity. Look, you know, it may or may not get supported, but I think in light of the previous motion that the mayor had put up earlier in the year, it just gives an opportunity for our community to be able to, you know, talk about their concerns or things that maybe we've forgotten or things that they're really, really supportive of. And the more people we get involved, the better. I'm certainly aware that, you know, it's very prominent now coming into state elections. So I've actually got a letter through from Lucy Hood about the consultation, and I think the other candidate, Julian Amata, I think so certainly they're aware of it. I've seen, you know, or not, but I guess, you know, through people's sporting clubs or through people's community clubs, people are sort of finding out more about it. So yeah, I'd encourage people to think about the motion, and it's just a way that we can actually have a face-to-face with the mayor and the CEO present within location. So it doesn't necessarily have to be out on the mound like it was last time, but something that is suitable, that is close to the location. Encourage you to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Backer. Do I have a seconder?
I was waiting for you, Mayor. I thought you might want to
Oh,
second
no. You go in first.
You sure? Look, I won't repeat everything Councillor Backer said, but I take inspiration from the councillor on my right who, when we approved the consultation process, questioned why aren't we doing what our policy says? And I thought it was a very mature, very smart thing to question, and I questioned it as well as Councillor Backer and maybe some others. So I think this reverts back essentially to our policy, our public policy that we've agreed to in terms of consultation time. And I like the ideas of doing some things a little bit to what we're doing now. So without repeating everything that Councillor Backer said, I certainly support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Any further discussion on this point? Councillor Nelson.
I'll touch on it. You do it, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Does that where's that even?
Kind of, not really.
No, I didn't think so.
I go back. Look, policy is always a good thing, but policy is also a guideline. It wasn't actually a policy, so you are correct, but it's a guideline. What we have, there are guidelines for consultation, and I think we do follow them. We voted on this in a motion in a recent council meeting. That the most important consultation period was always going to be phase 4, where we go through the code amendments. We want to make sure that we keep to that. I think with this one, history and lived experience tells us that anyone that has a strong feeling about any matter will engage immediately. And we always see a rapid ramp up of when we put things out for consultation, the response we get back in the first few days is obviously the most we get back. And then you'll get a few sort of dragglers and stress stragglers and everything else. So I think phase 3 is we've already seen extensively on social media, letterbox drops, public drop-in sessions, and the normal signage. So for me, well, I admired Councillor Backer in bringing this motion to council. I think we've set this to be a 4-week consultation, which I think is ample, and I think we save our 6-week consultation for phase 4.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll jump in with a couple of points. First of all,
probably appreciate being consulted in the future before being dropped into something like this. Second of all, as is everybody's, email address is publicly available on the website, as is possibly my phone number. And I've had no one contact me from the community requesting a meeting to personally discuss this to further understand it. I know there was some chatter on social media about this, and I do believe that Councillor Nelson also offered to meet. I don't know whether that's happened or not, but I'm available at any point in time for anyone to book in the time this meeting is being telecast. There are some people in the audience to come and meet with people personally to discuss this. So far, over the nearly 3 weeks of consultation, no one has contacted me about this to express their concerns or ask further questions. I met with Minister Sockarch today, who this will ultimately go to, and I presented the pack that we sent out, as well as the postcard, which was delivered to every letterbox in the City of Prospect, and also might be timely to confirm that we didn't tactically miss certain letterboxes on purpose. Wherever that came from, it's an absolute myth. And he was very impressed with the level of consultation that we had undertook. And when we discussed this with him in the first instance, he said, I strongly advise you to go through the full 4-week process. We took his advice and we extended it far beyond the minimum required. So from my perspective, we've put it out there. Lucy Hood is also consulting as well. And fundamentally, I think if this is an important enough issue for people, and many people are aware of this, then they would take the time to participate in the timeframes that we've given them. It's a 15-minute exercise to make a phone call to someone, or jump onto the website, or rearrange your schedule to attend a session that we'd put forward already. So they're just my views. I think we've done a thorough job. There's another week and a bit, I think, if in this period, and so if people are concerned that there haven't been opportunities, then encourage your networks to get in touch and to help inform them as to what we're actually putting forward a submission about. Full stop. Sorry. Any further points, Councillor Holland?
Oh, look, I haven't had anyone contact me either, and I'm sure if there were people with, pressed for time or unable to, speak with someone or turn up to one of our public sort of consultation meetings, that they would have contacted me, and there has been no contact. I think the 4 weeks, unless you're away overseas, even those 3 public consultations we had, there is a good chance you'd make one, but I did notice the attendance there was, I think the 2 I turned up for, there were, I think it was under the 10, perhaps 9, 10 perhaps. So it just indicates to me, not that people couldn't turn up, but perhaps this particular consultation wasn't of great interest. I think we might see more interest with the next one, or the one that has design aspects to it, but I think people were just, this is my opinion, it just seemed to be a bit of lack of interest in this one. I think, like Councillor Nelson said, if people are really concerned about something, they will contact you, and I've had that in the past. I think that second consultation, I had a few people that responded to the flyer that went in the letterbox, and that was, a lot of that was to do with, concern of paying more rates, and that issue is not in this. I'm not seeing that here.
Thank you, Councillor Holland. Any further discussion before we head back to Councillor De Backer for a summary? Over to you, Councillor Backer.
Yeah, just thank you for your consideration. Like I said, I based it on the Mayor's motion back earlier in the year, and it just would have given another opportunity perhaps to meet with the Mayor prior to consultation closing. But as the Mayor said, his phone number or email is happy to meet if anyone's got any concerns. So yeah, I'll leave it there and encourage you to support the motion. And please fill in your survey if you haven't already, for those watching at home.
4 people.
Well, it's 4 more.
Yeah.
Well, that's excluding staff who might be logged on. 3 people.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Backer. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Oh, sorry. Yes, that's me. Sorry. Sorry.
All those against? Motion
Division.
lost. So if you are in favour, please stand. Thank you, everybody. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to questions with notice. 12.3.1, change in definition. Where's my gavel? Change in definition of central infrastructure. There's a question has been put forward by Councillor Backer, and the question has been answered by the staff. Thank you very much for that question, and also for the thorough, as usual, answers. Item 12.4, urgent motions without notice. I think we have at least one potentially.
Urgent.
I'll determine whether it's urgent or not.
I just said the word, sorry.
Oh, did I miss that?
Yeah, I was
I'll check the recording.
thinking. That would happen.
Are there any urgent motions without notice?
Is that mine? I don't know.
Oh, well, you could put it forward and we'll determine whether it's urgent or not.
So I
Just
had,
process.
I foreshadowed 2. I'm trying to find the other one now. I have to do the page.
So one was relation to budget, the Crime Stoppers being considered as
I've got
part of
that
BR2, and the workshop with the LGRS
Oh,
trees.
that was back here with this one. The parking, no.
Urgent?
Up to you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have a gavel.
12.2.
There's a definition in the Act, isn't there?
You might have it up on your screen already.
Straight for my point of order.
On the definition of policies. Right.
So the first one was concerning the don't book and teach. Right, so it was building on the CEO's reports that no, it was the tree one.
12.2.3.
No, it's to do with the tree and having a workshop with the local council.
It's 12.2.3 is the agenda item. What's the on page 332.
What page?
332.
No.
On 1 million books, or just on the...
No, all right then. So
I'll have to go online.
Can I just let you know that I probably wouldn't consider the motion regarding the LGRS to be urgent. I think it could wait until the next council meeting. If that was one of the ones, Councillor.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that can. I don't consider it urgent. I think that could wait until the November council meeting.
Yeah. Okay. So
The other one is in relation to.
Sorry, that it was regarding the partnership with Crime Stoppers. So that a proposal regarding a partnership with Crime Stoppers SA in the City of Prospect be referred to Council's budget 52 for funding consideration. with a short report. I assume that has a short report attached about why some goes to the budget review.
I think given that BR2 is January, I wouldn't consider that one to be urgent either. I think that could come back to us at the next council meeting, a next version. Are there any other requests for urgent motions with that notice? Okay, thank you for that. We'll move on to item 12.5, late reports. I don't believe there are any late reports, so we'll now move on to confidential items. Recommendation to go into confidence. Do I have a mover? Councillor Stan and Deputy Mayor Trinh Nguyen. All those in favour of going into confidence? Thank you. We'll just give us a moment to clear the room.